Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Jim Cornette Experience, where today you can join us as we take a 3-hour tour through modern wrestling, classic wrestling, and all the stuff that happened to us this week. And joining me, Hawaiian Brian, the podcasting lion, the king of the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network, Mr. Co-host to you. If he'd been the first mate instead of Gilligan, Lovey'd still be back in Honolulu. The great Brian Last, everybody.
I'll just cut it short there. Aloha, Jim. A pleasure to be here once again. Action-packed show. Lots of action. AEW has so much action. But there's more than that to talk about.
You cut it short. That's the first good thing that's happened to me this week. And I got a bad taste in my mouth right now. And I don't even mean from watching the shows. This mouth rinse that my dentist has given me, and I had the infected gum a couple weeks ago, and I've got the consultation now with the oral surgeon. I'm going to have 2 teeth pulled instead of one up and one down, because the one up was the one that I knew looked a little shady. The one down was the one I had no idea there was anything wrong with. So he said I would not be exponentially more miserable with the 2s. I'm gonna be out. Might as well take them all. Pull my toenails while you're at it. Fuck. But now I got this mouth rinse, and it's not pleasant. It's not Sprite Zero. Let's put it that way. Have you ever had a bad taste in your mouth, Brian?
From dental work or dental?
Just a bad taste in your mouth in general. You just walk around every once in a while for a week or so with a bad taste in your mouth. That ever happened to you?
Yeah, actually, the other day I got a salad. And the salad was supposed to have a very nice sweet vinaigrette. And that was not what it was. It was quite disappointing, and it ruined the salad.
Sweet vinaigrette. My salad never tasted so shitty. All right, well, before we go any further, ladies and gentlemen, there's rumors and speculation going on about something here, and we wanted to go ahead and nip it in the bud, as Barney Fife would say. A lot of people know over the course of the years, we've talked about him, you've seen his work, but the guy that does and has done the artwork for both of our shows, Experience and Drive Through, the YouTube channel, the thumbnails that the kids call them, and a variety of your programs, Brian, on the Arcadian Vanguard Network. Travis Heckel announced that he was not going to be doing the art anymore. And he, this is what's come up over the last few days, that he made that statement on Twitter, but the way that he did it, he left it open as to any reason. He just, I'm not going to be doing the art anymore, and blah blah blah. That's about it. So, since he didn't say whose decision it was or what it was about or whatever, people have started. I know you'll find this hard to believe, Brad, but people on the internet are making up conspiracy theories and stories, and starting drama. It's over money. It's over money. They fired him. Why would they fire him? What in the way? So we're going to put the rumors to rest before all of the fake drama gets going, because the real drama is good enough. But anyway, no, we didn't fire him. No, it wasn't over money. Going further, we have to back up a little bit. Brian, I guess it's been, well, I've known Travis for years. He's from here in Louisville. He's been a wrestling fan forever. And so I can't actually remember the very first time that we met, but he's been doing our art for close to 10 years, certainly 8, I would think.
7 or 8, somewhere in that
7,
range.
8. Well, as I get older, I can't keep track of time. It just starts melting away. But anyway, he's been doing the art for us for almost 10 years, one way or the other. And Travis was his son, Aiden, we've talked about. He'd like to take Aiden to Disney World and take him to his ball games. And a lot of times, we work around the schedule sometimes on the art. Oh, shit, they're out of town at a ball game. No worries, blah, blah, blah. And he would tweet pictures years ago on his Twitter of the trips to Disney and cartoons and art and things. And we've never had a crossword between us, the three of us that I can think of in all of those years. And what we knew about Travis's personal opinions was, he was a big Disney fan. And he did always say he didn't like talk about politics. That's fine. And he did make a point at one point of letting everybody know that he didn't like the vaccines. I thought maybe after he got COVID a few years ago and was in the hospital for so long and almost died, that might change, but that's nevertheless. And you reminded me, Brian, here several days ago that it was probably about, I don't know, 5 years ago, whatever. He told you, I'm getting off of social media. Because he'd been, Disney Dad Travis on Twitter with the pictures of the Magic Castle. And we followed him and, went back and forth, blah, blah, blah. So he said he was getting off of social media. And, okay, a lot of people do that. Believe me, if I wasn't having to keep up on the wrestling news, I wouldn't be on the goddamn internet at all. Everybody's well aware of that. So we had no issue with that. And I can't say that I've seen Travis in a while, but in person, but I haven't seen a lot of people in person in a while. We talk on the phone every once in a while. You've been in constant contact with him because of the art, either by text or email, I would think, multiple times per week, right?
Yeah, for about 10 years, give or take, almost 10 years of, constant, all the time correspondence. And let me just, if you don't mind, jump in and make a little bit of a correction. Previously, a while back, because, I first got to know Travis through the shows through social media, through him reaching out and sending artwork and stuff. And then we found out that we had met each other years earlier after the Louisville show in 95. And he had said to me, and I don't have the exact thing in front of me, but it was a variation of, I hate all the political things I'm getting off social media. And I think that's like the healthiest thing anyone could do. Whether or not you hate political things or not, it's not always healthy for people. But, he said that. And then I know he would kind of disappear or reappear on Facebook because I'm not on social media as much as, people probably think. It's usually just posting clips and looking for news and that's it. And,
well, yeah, because we don't have a lot of time and I don't know how this shit works. I'm not interested in learning.
Yeah. And I knew he was on Facebook because a couple of times he bowed out from being, I know it was in the Mothership Facebook group. It may have been when we first started the Cult of Cornette group. He was like a mod and he bowed out, just, I don't want to be on social media. Hey, fine, no problem. I don't know if he ever really left with the Twitter situation. Whatever that original account was that we got to know him on social media with, I think it was like Classic Memphis Wrestling or Memphis Classics. It was some variation of Memphis Wrestling. That went away. Then there was the Disney account. And I don't know if that went away or not, but
that went away because we followed it. Because I asked Stacy to make. I said, we used to follow Travis, and she looked it up, but he hadn't tweeted on it in 5 years.
But I had not seen Travis on Twitter in forever. I didn't even know he had a Twitter account.
Well, point being. So again, there's never been any conflict in the relationship, and nobody ever said anything to anybody about anything that might be happening. And then last week or two, I've seen on Twitter I think somebody tweeted me, but didn't give any specifics. And then I was in one of those conversations I was eavesdropping on where people are talking, but basically it's like, boy, I wonder if Cornette saw what Travis Heckel said on social media or what. And no, I didn't. So I asked you before we got ready to record something the other day, week, whatever. I said, did Travis say, has he become a closet AEW fan? Is he saying something on social media I should be aware of? You hadn't seen anything. And we got other, things to dwell on. And I said, if it was important, I would think I would see it or whatever. And that's where we left it. And it was important and I saw it eventually. I guess it was this past Sunday. Somebody, looking on Twitter, and somebody has tweeted me, "Hey, Jim, what in the world do you think of this?" And it is a quote tweet where Travis has tweeted on his new account that we were not being followed on or aware of. Joe Biden is a pedophile. And I looked away for a second like I'd accidentally seen my parents having sex. Because I'm like, what? What? Oh my God. And come to find out, if you look for not just a pedophile, but a confirmed pedophile. Like everybody knows this. And in investigating the rest of Travis's account, and folks, again, this is not going to be a political thing. I'm so sick and tired of hearing that. This is going to be a something, I don't know what. Because if you look further at what Travis had been tweeting, it was like he had a checklist provided in the daily newspaper of every fringe, MAGA, grievance, issue. Not just the regular shit, not just he doesn't believe in climate change, and January 6th didn't happen, and they have opened the borders, and they're going to change your kid's sex and not tell you about it. That's there. A lot of it is just silly and silly. Like Nike is evil. Sami Zayn is a commie dirtbag. He's mad at Billy Joel because Billy Joel said in the new documentary that he was done with Trump after the good people on both sides deal. He's pro dildo throwing. He's constantly chiming in just, I hate commies! Exclamation point, exclamation point.
It's the pro dildo throwing thing that's a step too far, I think.
Nobody he knows watches PBS. Sesame Street now, for Christ's sake. Aiden never watched Sesame Street? The Department of Education are all commies. And CBS has never been news. It's always been propaganda. This is a quote, I swear to God to everybody. Walter Cronkite fooled you all.
Oh my God, really?
Cronkite! I'm not making this shit up. They are. Walter Cronkite, now the most trusted man in America, now is on the defensive 40 years after his death over at the fucking right-wing loony camp. Then they're mad at Cronkite. Billy Joel's one thing, but Cronkite?
That's a new one. I did not know that was a complaint amongst people that Walter Cronkite had fooled people on behalf of the communist organization CBS. Whatever it is.
But the point is, getting back to what was way too far. This is not only the content and the tone, but the frequency gave you the impression that the hinges were starting to flap. And we get back to the main point, which was that was only the third time over the week period that he had tweeted Joe Biden is either a confirmed or verified pedophile, and was asking why nobody is going to pick him up. It's a known fact. Oh shit, they found him guilty, and shit, they sentenced him, and he's just walking around. Nobody's bothered to pick him up yet. I don't know what to fucking say. I've never been so embarrassed in my life, and I'll get to that in a minute. And also, His other thing is he's happy about the military takeover of the nation's capital because the Democrats are okay with people being murdered because of their severe TDS. So now, here's the thing. Before I go any further, the reason why that the country is in the shit shape it is in right now is because people like Travis and so many others have been fed this horse shit and made to believe it, and then they spread it. And nobody connected to this program is going to be doing that. But I get ahead of myself again. Because you know me, Brian. I'm level-headed. I'm reasonable. I didn't want to fire Travis. I wanted to go over to his house and choke him. Because how can he do this behind my back?
You were pissed off. I have not heard you that pissed off about a person in a while. You were...
Because here's the thing. All the people who hate us and don't like me and, want to make me bad, I don't care, right? But when it comes from inside the house, that's on another level, because I had no idea that these things were being said or going on by a person connected to the program. Anyway, point being, when I calmed down a little bit, I called you, because you are a little bit more level-headed about these things.
I was about to go to the pool with my family. It was Sunday afternoon.
You're not quite as prickly. You're just sitting there by the pool with the family, waiting to hear about this. And you were... I overused the phrase gobsmacked, bumfuzzled, astonished when you viewed the content as well.
Yeah, and specifically the Joe Biden thing, and I think these are the exact words I said to you. I don't have a problem with someone criticizing Joe Biden. I don't have a problem with someone criticizing his administration, the way things were run, what it led to. I don't have any problem with that, but when it's not any of those things, it's not some criticism that seems to come from a level place or just reasonable.
Joe Biden has Alzheimer's. Well, unfortunately, probably. They were trying to cover it up so that we could save the fucking world, but that's probably true.
That's something that's at this point been talked about, rumored in books from every side of the aisle. So that's fair.
Joe Biden is a confirmed, verified pedophile, Brian. You haven't heard about this? There should be somebody picking him up.
And again, what you said at the very top was, it was the quantity. And I kind of thought Travis was like a libertarian and he hated all the politicians. I didn't realize it was seemingly, I don't want to say an obsession, but it's seemingly something that meant a whole lot to him, that he really felt like he had to just issue a barrage of tweets seemingly every day. And, like you said, it's not about, you're not allowed to have your beliefs. It's a free country. There's freedom of speech. It's all that. But he's representing the Jim Cornette podcast. And that's the part that...
When I type Travis Heckel's name in, the first thing that comes up is Jim Cornette's artist, Travis Heckel. So I would have thought that he might have mentioned something like this to me in the previous 10 years that he was going to, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So in you trying to throw a blanket on me, I try to be professional. And Brad, remember when every time I try to be professional, it doesn't work. But when I scream at somebody and physically assault them, I usually get what I want. Let's try to be professional. I don't have to have this long personal relationship with Travis. Let's not fuck the show, you, the fans. Travis is out of a well-paying second job that he has. Let's not disrupt everything. I'll just be over here You continue to deal with Travis. Travis continues to do the art. Travis continues to get paid for the art. The fans get to see the art. Just don't say anything else crazy on Twitter, I believe was my quote. Don't say anything else crazy on the internet. I may have made it broader just to not leave a loophole. Quit saying crazy shit on the internet. And you, in some fashion, probably more politely delivered that.
I emailed him before I went down to the pool to meet my family after I got off the phone with you. I sent him an email and I let him know, because it was the maddest I had heard you in a while. I let him know that you were as mad as I had heard you in a while. And it was because you had just found out, because listeners had gotten in touch about these tweets, and specifically the Joe Biden is a pedophile one. Specifically that we didn't even know he was on Twitter. Like, he doesn't follow us, and we didn't follow him because we didn't know he was there. It's almost like it was, again, he felt an urge. He had to get these thoughts out there under his name on Twitter. I don't understand, but I explained all this to him, and I said that this is a problem. If you're going to continue to do this, we probably have to figure out something. Let me know what you want to do. And later on that day, he sent me back an email, and he also sent it in text, I believe. And it said, that he was really sorry and that he really appreciates you and he would never want to do anything to upset you. And I'm like, okay, cool. Now we're back to where we were. Travis, I'm not saying change your thoughts. I'm just saying.
That sounded like normal Travis. That sounded like the Travis we've always had communication with.
And, again, we didn't even say take down stuff. We just said just more.
Quit. Just stop.
And again, you Google Travis Heckel.
I didn't think about taking shit down. I forgot you could do that.
We didn't even get there. So I think we're okay. I think the next day was Monday. I had a bunch of meetings and a bunch of things going on. And then overnight at 3 a.m, so I didn't see it until I woke up. And
by the way, he did take it the first day off in I don't know how long, and he didn't tweet because you'd look.
So then, like I said, 3 a.m, I saw it the next day at 7 when I woke up. He sent me a message saying, "Hey, I thought about it, and I think I'm just going to drop off the show. No hard feelings. You guys have done a great job." He sent me a note that he appreciates everything. I mean, again, that's the thing. I know Travis. I like Travis. I care about Travis. We've been through a lot with Travis, and I think him and his family are terrific. And it's just he's representing the show with seemingly any crazy fringe thing, and then insisting that this is the way it is, and then tweeting about it over and over again, and then.
Well, he appreciates me. He appreciates me and never wants to do anything to me. And then he turns around and everything I publicly stand for, he's like, "This is bullshit."
Well,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, but I mean, again, he's obviously got a lot on his mind with this stuff. He's come a long way from "I hate politics" and tweeting just that all the time. Now it seems that he's got a lot of feelings about this stuff, and that's his right. So yeah, he decided to leave. And then he put out a statement, because we weren't going to say anything until we had a chance to do it here on the air. I didn't put out any kind of statement or anything. We still had Travis artwork in the pipeline. We're just about done with that. Go ahead.
Well, also, we were going to wait a couple of days to see if maybe he might rethink this, giving the income that he's losing on in all these years, he's into six figures. With what he's made just doing this art. But go ahead.
Yeah, and I mean, he's told me in the past, because, I always like hearing these stories, that I think him and Aiden always got a kick out of being recognized, having their names recognized. It just happened a couple weeks ago. They went to get pizza somewhere in Louisville, and the person there was like, "Are you Travis Heckel from the Jim Cornette show?" So people associate him with the shows. But yeah, he put out a statement. It had like a weird line where it was like, "If that's your kind of thing, continue to support it, whatever that is. I don't know." But like I said, I think this whole thing's unfortunate. And if Travis isn't, it would be like if Travis had a Twitter page, to take politics out of this. If Travis had a Twitter page and was talking about how Vince Russo's a genius, And it was just nonstop stuff like that.
It's not even. I mean that.
No, but I'm just saying it's diametrically opposed to what your views are. So
I know, but let's take the silliness out of the equation of any of this. As far as if it was Vince Russo or whatever, or maybe let's put some silliness in it. If Donald Trump hired one of those blonde bimbo Stepford wife press secretaries to lie for him. But she came out and said, yeah, this fucking guy's full of shit. I don't think he knows what he's doing, but here's what he wants me to tell you. I don't know if she'd have her job very long either, but
depends how blonde. But go ahead.
It depends how bimbo. Let's make it more serious. First off, as I said, for the country this is happening because this guy has normalize this to just lie and be accepted because these people, they fall down the rabbit hole or the maggot hole and they can't get out of it. And I don't hate Travis, and I'm not mad at Travis. I'm sorry we lost Travis as a person. I don't believe Travis is evil. I think what he's being told by evil people, he believes. And that's the problem that we've got to stop. We can't keep letting people just spread this horse shit. They're eating the dogs and cats. And we've got troops in the fucking streets kidnapping people because of this shit, because crime is up when crime is down. And it's all performative with this fucking wannabe lunatic dictator and all the people that are falling into the sway of the whole thing. Even he's just the figurehead of it, but it's out there in other places. And all these right-wing liars are trying to jockey to be the next one after this old man kicks the fucking bucket. We're still screwed. We can't even hope for a fucking happy ending because there's more of them. But here's another thing. It's personal because Travis, and by the way, he's got my phone number. He's got my email. And I emailed him some of this same stuff. So why? And he hadn't bothered to answer me yet. But were we friends? Then Brian, didn't he go behind my back for however long he's been doing this, saying this stuff? What was his plan here? I sound like fucking Chris Hansen. What was his plan? That nobody was ever going to tell me? And that he, or as an employee for the aforementioned large amount of money over almost a decade and having a job for life, he couldn't have come to me or you or either one of us and say, I'm really feeling an overwhelming urge to say a bunch of shit on Twitter that will make Jim make your head blow up. And as your employee, is this going to cause a problem? Do we need to have a peaceful transition here? Is there something else? Yeah, I'm going to do this rather than take my money for however long he's been doing this, say this shit behind my back until somebody stooges on it. Then I'd asked him how I'm surprised it took this long. And that's what I'm mad, but I'm more embarrassed that a alleged friend, employee, and or member of the program here is going to just, fuck you. Oh, yeah, you won't catch me till eventually. I apologize to anybody who saw this stuff or heard him say these things and thought that I knew that it was happening. And I hate to admit having feelings, God damn it, but they're hurt.
Yeah, and beyond your feelings and beyond my feelings and beyond either of our political leanings, sadly, you also have to look at it from the business perspective. We have partners. We have lots of people we work with, from advertisers to our advertising agent to international distributor. We have all sorts of people we work with who are partners in what we do. You don't want them to all of a sudden be like, hey, what the fuck is this? And if any of them saw it, I'm pretty sure, no matter what side of the aisle they are on, because again, it's not just like, oh, this is a conservative point of view. That's not what it is. It's beyond that. And it's the kind of thing that's embarrassing. It's the kind of thing that if it got noticed, could cost us business.
Wait a minute. If we read one of those tweets if we just said what he said on YouTube without any context, saying this is crazy that they said that in the sentence, we would get kicked off the goddamn air. You can't know.
And, again, for anyone who thinks it was about money, had nothing to do with money. And for all I know, I think Travis and his family have been very happy. I don't think there's ever been an issue with money with us. And for anyone who thinks this is just a difference of political opinions, it's more than that. And again, it's Jim's shows. His name is on it. The people that do business with us are doing business with the Jim Cornette podcasts. We can't have that stuff being out there in the show's name. That's the issue. And
I find it very ironic, and you can put this out there in my name, I find it very ironic that he is accusing the former president of being a confirmed pedophile, given the current occupant of the office. It's crazy. And I'll just say one more time. Again, I'm mad that Travis this has happened to Travis the same way that I would be mad in Invasion of the Body Snatchers when the seed pod takes over another member of the group. Why? And that's the issue of being upset about this thing, because we've had, since this whole nightmare began 10 years ago or whatever with this guy and all these people around him, I've had emails on and off. Because I've been saying the same thing since the start. So people have heard it, and I've had emails right along every once in a while. I don't understand what it is, Jim. I've had to stop speaking to my best friend or a member of my family, or you can't talk to him anymore. I don't know what it is about a fat man wearing orange makeup that's an obvious grifter and con man, and a series of lying stooges around him.
That's part of it, but the bigger issue is it's beyond just Trump. It's beyond
the news dissemination.
It's flat Earth kind of shit. It's like,
but it's the news dissemination about that these people can somehow be made, can be built by Jack Pfeffer, this band of freaks, a fat grifting con man, a criminal family, and a bunch of lunatic plastic surgery victims all around him. A news network can take that and make this goddamn cult to the point where people they'll leave their jobs, or they'll not speak to family members, or unfortunately want to speak to family members, and the family members can't speak to them. It's just insane to me, and it's not even good lies. It's shit. It's on the surface of it you could see through, and then when you dig further, it's even clearer.
Well, again, Donald Trump and his kids aren't going out there and saying Joe Biden's a pedophile. I guess that's the issue. It's not just he supports any of that. And I don't even know if he does, I assume. But I don't know, because again, I always thought he was just a libertarian who hated all politicians. But again, I don't want to just keep going over this over and over again. It's all unfortunate, like I said. But Travis, the views that he, again, felt the urge to obviously spend time putting out there every day don't align with these programs, and again, it's all unfortunate.
But once again, we didn't fire him against my best interest because he quit anyway. I should have just said, fuck it, being professional, but we didn't fire him. It wasn't over money. He decided not to do this, to tweet stuff to 900 followers. The problem was one day something that he might say might hit the big time. And then there we are. And I apologize if anybody thought that I knew about what was happening before I knew what was happening.
Yeah, and I think I speak for both of us. Like I said, we never had an issue with Travis lovely family. We've been, like I said, we've been through a lot medically with Travis. I care about the guy. And, it's unfortunate.
That's why I am mad at this shit. I'm mad at this whole movement that is leading so many of these people down this path. And that there's, again, you can't yell fire in a crowded theater, right, Brian? That was adjudicated long ago. And you know the reason behind it, because if you yell fire in a crowded theater where there is no actual fire taking place, you will institute a panic where people in trying to get out of the way are going to fucking get hurt. Because that was a thing that used to happen back in the days when you could yell fire in a crowded theater. It's the same thing. Whether it's the news networks or the politicians, and you know who they're all sucking up to, and he's the king of all liars. They spread shit to cover up their own shit. People believe it, and then they turn around and they repeat it, and sooner or later, you've got all these people believing it. And this is what's happened. And
it's
got to draw a line somewhere.
And the other thing too is, whether it's this situation with Travis or anyone out there, if you just call people a pedophile because you don't like them, or you search for evidence to prove this idea you have must be true, you water it down for when a real pedophile needs to be exposed. If you call everyone a commie, when there are legitimate commies out there, when there are people who are commies, if you just call everyone a commie, you water it down for where the real commie needs to be pointed out. And it can't just be, I don't like you, so I'm going to, it's not giving people nicknames like Twinkle Toes McFingerbang. It's like Twinkle Pedophile McFucks the Boy. Like, it's over the top. And, when there really are people out there who are fucked up that need to be exposed for a lot of things, you don't want to be just, I don't like Joe Biden, he's a pedophile. Look, here he is next to a girl at the White House in front of the press. Like, what the fuck?
Taking pictures. Fucking.
In front of the press. It wasn't like I found this hidden video. It was like the press's video.
But again, yes, that's you can't just, you can't. So again, we're sorry about the whole thing.
And in terms of artwork, we have a few Travis things in the pipeline that'll probably be out by the time you hear this. We actually found a bunch of clips that didn't get released for one reason or another, old SmackDown and Raw reviews from a year ago. So if all of a sudden those go up and you're like, what the hell is this? That's what it is. But really happy to say George Livinitis, who has been a tremendous help to us over the last several years. Originally, he was a guest artist when Travis got sick, and we enjoyed his work, and he's been doing a lot of guest artwork for the channel. He's going to be stepping it up and contributing more, and we're really happy about that. We really like him and his style of art, and we're also opening up the floor again for guest artists. If it's the right person, and you understand what we do, the feel of what we do, the fun of what we do on there, and you think
or the fun feel. If you would like a fun feel,
well, no, let's not say that. But
hit us up.
If you've ever wanted to do art for the show, get in touch. cornydrivethrough@gmail.com. We'll try to get to everyone. A lot of people always want to get in, so it's nothing personal. If we don't go right to you, some of you actually may be personal. You just may not understand what a thumbnail is. But guest artists, we got George. Yes. Moving forward, we got a lot of big things we're working on, big things coming up, and I wish the very best to Travis going forward. But we got big things happening and exciting times here.
You sound like Nick Goulas now.
This is the biggest show he's ever done.
The one of the biggest cards I've signed in many years. Headline, well, it is a big card, and I got some big emails here. We've got viewer mail, Brian, and we're going to go through a little bit of that because, again, we got detectives in the audience, a bunch of Sherlock Holmeses, a bunch of Columbos, a bunch of, what was
Inspector
Columbo's
Gadgets?
First name? Well, we got a few of those too. Some gimmicks, definitely.
Do you know Inspector Gadget? Do you know who that is?
Yes, the cartoon character that does the thing with the gadgets. It's Carlito's Way. I vaguely know.
All right. I don't know Columbo's first name. I'm not Peter.
Peter Columbo sounds like a bodybuilder from the 60s. Anyway, we've got some viewer emails, and this is from Lucas in South Africa. Just real quick, we wanted to say hello to Lucas. He's been listening since 2019, but his father just passed away, and he was a big fan and introduced Lucas to wrestling when he was a kid. So he was thanking us for the entertainment, during this period of time. But we appreciate you, Lucas, and everybody wishes you well also. Go ahead.
I was going to say that's right. Yes, we do.
Well, yes, you were going to. Yes. Well, that's nice of you to agree with me. But he's Lucas in South Africa as opposed to Lucas anywhere else, just in case every Lucas was trying to jump onto that shout out and try to claim it for his own.
If his dad was a wrestling fan in South Africa, it makes you wonder if he was at that famous Terry Funk Hulk Hogan. Was that South Africa? That happened in South Africa, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe he was. We'll never know now, but thank you. Well, Lucas, if you're listening, because you're a listener, tell us if your dad was at the match, and we'll follow up with your next email.
Yeah, and if you got a program, let me know. I'll buy it.
Oh, good God.
Or a ticket stub.
Are you going to inject the commercialism and the collectivism into this thing? He wants to keep those things for souvenirs. Hey, Lucas, let me know. I'll top the offer.
Perhaps the ticket stub was dipped in Terry Funk's blood as it fell onto the ground. That was happening a lot there in those days. Fans would dip shit in blood.
Not only did it happen, I've seen it happen, and I did it. I did it, Brian. Did I ever tell you this?
You may have. Whose blood was it?
And I still have it because I was 13 years old, I guess. Yes, I was. But in the old days, kids, after the matches were over with, if the main event had been real bloody and everything, and they dripped on the canvas, when the matches were over and people are leaving the building, in Louisville Gardens, they had a fucking clothesline, right? With a break in two places where, the guys walked in and you could just step over it. And the crowd would go up around the ring and put their finger in or blot their program in or whatever, the blood, to say, hey, is that real or what the fuck's going on, right? To inspect the shit. And the famous Mongolian Stomper and Bullet Bob Armstrong match, where, Jesus Christ, I don't care what anybody has ever said about wrestling, for a 2.5 minute period, you had 4,000 people screaming at the same time, including me. I couldn't figure out how they did it. I didn't know. This was the most violent, bloody, realistic. Holy shit. The place went batshit. It still exists on film, thankfully. I have a copy. And they both got incredible juice, and it was a double count out where Bob was right. And this was before I was the official photographer. Now, bear in mind, Bob was right on top of him, and they were right in front of us, and we'd got front row by that time, and I got the great picture right. It's on the cover of Tuesday Night at the Gardens. And they left so much blood on the canvas there by the time that it was all pulled apart that all the people started fucking going up and so I went up and put a piece of my notebook paper in that, and fuck, it's covered, right? And I still have that to this day. I had put it in a frame 51 years ago or whatever it was.
Do you know whose it is, or is it a mixture? What is it?
No, it was a mix. They were there for a while doing he was beating the shit out of Stomper so they could be counted out on the aprons. It was everywhere. Now, having been able to see the film with modern eyes, all of the Bob Armstrong and Stomper matches were good. And this one was good until Stomper had started getting the heat on Bob. And I know now what they did, but nobody did then. Stomper fucking hits the ropes and does his big leap in the air with those cowboy boots and comes right down, and it looked like he potatoed him now. on Bob's forehead where everybody could see it, and Bob set up and blood just gushed down his face instantly. And the people saw that and were like, "Oh!" And then Stomper starts getting more heat on the cut, and the way Bob's selling that, oh my God, this blood is coming out, and the people are starting to come up. And then Bob, the bullet, he's got that fire. He starts firing up, and the people are with it, and he makes the comeback. And now Stomper's bleeding. And the people are going batshit for like this just couple of minute period. It's like, oh, and it was violent as hell. And they end up getting counted out and etc.
Were you
what had happened was Bob, old trick, he bladed while he was down before the stomp. But they had timed it so perfectly because whatever stomp, I can't remember what he did to put him there, slab, body slab, whatever. As Bob is laying there while the people are looking at Stomper hitting the ropes, Bob had done it. And when he hit him with the stomp and Bob sat up, it was already coming. And it was seamless. Nobody would have looked at Bob to be touching his head before that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Were you already the president of his fan club at that point?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, yes. Hold on. Hold on there, cowboy. No, that was when it was still my old friend Mike Gibson from Ackworth, Georgia, who later relocated to the Northeast and owns a bookstore there now. The way Northeast, like almost to Cape Cod or whatever. No, I was a member, but I was the official correspondent since Bob was in the territory, but I was not yet the president.
Did you send in photos?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I think one of maybe the last bulletin that he did was one of the pictures that I took of this incident that I'm just describing to you. But it reprinted in black and white on copy paper on his sister's, fucking print of some way or another. I remember that at one point, I think it was his sister that had a copy machine in her work or something. But, yeah.
Oh, we're thinking about you.
Anyway,
Lucas.
Yes. Oh, we're back to Lucas in South Africa. How did we get to Bob Armstrong and the Stomper? Don't even tell me. Then
via South Africa.
Yeah. By Omaha. Well, Kurt from, I don't know where the fuck he's from. I'm not going to give his email address. Has said, I assume you've been getting a few of these, and we've got more than a few because I saw a couple and I don't see a lot of stuff. But when we were talking about the Fritz von Erich letter to Jack Pfeffer trying to get booked, and he gave as his resume, his background in athletics, that he had played pro football for the New York Yankees. Now, are you smart to this yet?
I have received a ton of correspondence about this since it aired. Yes.
Yeah, well, but now there's an asterisk here where we weren't completely just oblivious.
They're not the Yankees.
It was the New York Yanks. Apparently, there was a professional football team in the New York metropolitan area from 1949 to 1951 called the New York Yanks.
And then they got yanked out of the tri-state area and then went to Texas.
Yeah.
but that's part of the story, right? People were saying that even if he was aligned with that team, it wasn't when they were in New York. It was when they were already in Texas, right?
Well, I don't know. Because this was in early 1953. He had already done it. Did he play in New York, or did he play when they went to Texas? It seemed to me like he said he made it seem like he would have played for the New York team, because why wouldn't he call them the Texas Cornholers or whatever they became?
And I would never stretch the truth.
Well, but he didn't have as far to stretch it back then because it hadn't been as long since he'd been in it.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yes, and also apparently there was a football team even earlier than that, the Brooklyn Dodgers. Did you see this trivia note somewhere?
I knew that. I knew that, and obviously the New York Giants.
Oh, I knew that. Well, why didn't you chime in about this when we looked like idiots?
Because you didn't ask anything about the Dodgers. It was specifically to the Yankees.
Well, you could have anecdotally.
It's a different league. It's not even the same league.
I don't care. I don't know what the fuck league is to begin with.
You could have
anecdotally said, well, there was one time there was a football team called the Brooklyn Dodgers, so maybe it's possible.
Jim, there's also a football team called the New York Giants. And back in the old days, there was a baseball team called the New York Giants. They moved to San Francisco. The San Francisco football team is not named the Giants. They're the 49ers. And, of course, the St. Louis Cardinals were both baseball and football. This has been a Sports Minute. I'm Brian Last.
Sports Center, brought to you by Sexual Harassment in Connecticut.
If we actually bothered to try to come up with bits for this show, it would probably suck.
Unlike these great improv bits that are just wonderful.
Well, at least it entertains us, and that's really all we could hope for in the end. I'm reaching the end, Brian, I'm in the December of my years before I go sit out under a tree and become compost. So I got to entertain myself. All right. We've been talking about the wrestling history on television. We have been, since the Pfeffer file visit that I had up at Notre Dame and we've been going through some of the things that we got, and we uncovered, because we talked previously about the history of wrestling on television, and the earliest that anybody was coming up with was, 1947 for Los Angeles, and 1946, they signed on the air in St. Louis or something and did something with Bill Longson on a talk show, whatever. But then through these letters from your friend and mine, I.T. Flatto, not only the attorney for Jack Pfeffer for many years, but also the promoter of the Ridgewood Grove Arena, is it Ridgewood Garden? We'll get to it in a second. But anyway, point being, we saw them talking about the NBC original commercial telecast that went to a select few people in the New York metropolitan area that were broadcasting wrestling in 1939 and 1940. And that was, something that we were talking about a couple of weeks ago. Well, we've got a couple of things. We're going to go back in time, and we'll start in the modern era of 1939 and 1940, and then we'll go back further than that. But we were talking about the magazine Transmitter from NBC that, Brian, you sent me a link to, and these are on the internet. How did you find it?
I forget what I Googled, but I Googled something, and that was one of the hits. But if you Google NBC Transmitter, it'll come right up.
It's the in-house trade magazine for the National Broadcasting Company, and specifically, it was they were radio, the network, and also the record end of the business and everything for those people who liked music in their homes. And they were experimenting with television. And so the in-house magazine, Richard, sent a piece that he researched the same file you did. And he says in the 1940 collection of NBC transmitters, page 2 of the February edition, you'll find the following passages. And this is from the magazine of that time. NBC television ended the year 1939 having put on 668 individual programs in the 8 months from April 30, 1939 to January 1st, 1940. The schedule was on average 5 days a week, 2 hours a day, for a total of about 360 hours, or an average of a little over 10 hours a week. That was when television was on the air in one place in the country. The programs were made up of approximately 1/3 from the studio, 1/3 film, and 1/3 outdoor pickups. And some of the shows were, Brian, most of the Brooklyn Dodgers professional football games, the 6-day bike races at Madison Square Garden. Remember, that was a thing back in those days. the Bear Nova fight. That was Max Bear was the heavyweight champion at the time, and the father of the guy who played Jethro on the Beverly Hillbillies for the kids. What was Nova's first name? I keep wanting to say Aldo, but that'd just be a
Busey.
fantasy.
Mike Busey.
No, quit it. No.
Or Bucci, whatever, however you pronounce him.
No, it wasn't Lou Nova. He was a more modern boxing figure, wasn't he? Anyway, I can see you're impressed about Nova.
I don't know.
they also did the television ball from the Waldorf Astoria, the premiere of Gone with the Wind at the Capitol Theater, and the weekly boxing and wrestling matches from the Ridgewood Grove Arena. And it said our television audience, this is where I wanted to go with this, because the Ridgewood Grove Arena, again, is the one we found the letters where they were complaining that they had spent money to he was complaining they had outfitted the arena for television and wanted to continue on the experimental basis of not paying for it.
He wanted $50.
He wanted $50 a week, goddammit, and $100 for the boxing. But anyway, this concludes with our television audience, and this is in New York City. And at the time, and again, we may find out shit. We're finding out all kinds of stuff, but nobody else was transmitting television in the United States because NBC was in the process of working it out, right? So we've established that. So this would be the total television audience, not just in New York, but nevertheless, to be estimated in the neighborhood of 2,000 home receivers as of January 1st, 1940. And as we've said, a lot of those were either in the RCA executives, the technological folks that were working on the project had these in their homes, and some rich people and connected people. And it goes on to say, with the average of 4 or 5 persons per receiver, as indicated in an early survey, it means that our potential audience is between 8 and 10,000. That originally, if you had a television in your home, not only would everybody in the house probably be watching if it was on, but you would have people over. So the very earliest estimates were, 4 or 5 people are watching each set every time that we do something on average, which meant maybe the chairman of RCA, General David Sarnoff, was home alone in his den, but there was 10 people over at the fucking production engineer's house.
Well, the other thing is back then too, how many people turned on a TV set alone? I mean, was it a big deal? Hey, I'm going to turn on the TV. They'll be programming from 2 to 4 on Wednesday. Yeah. So come over.
Hey, when I was a kid, there had to be one person watch the picture and one person behind fiddle with the rabbit ears. But I digress. That's why, as we'll talk about later on here today, if we get to it, the average, they now count number of viewers because all the statistics are so minute. But the way that television ratings evolved for years through the 90s, I believe they counted the homes, not the individual viewers. They did separate surveys, and they had an average number of viewers per home, which went down steadily. In 1953, if you had a TV, it was one TV in the whole house. It was like 3.5 people per home were watching or whatever. And by the late 80s, early 90s, it was like 1.5 person, per home. And then now it's just figured in a completely different way. But so you had, they were shooting these things or airing these things for basically most of the people that were able to watch them were either in the homes of RCA executives and or friends, and they were trying to work it out. And that's 1939 and 1940. So we've established that, and I've got, hold on, I thought I had another, God damn it, wait a minute.
Well, I guess the thing too is
maybe
that
I don't.
If there was anything before this period of time, it seems more than likely it could only be experimental and based out in New York and probably the future WNBC Channel 4 that we're talking about. Forget the exact initials. I don't have this in front of me.
Well, yes. Well, I'm going there, but I thought I had something else about 1939 first. I thought, but nevertheless.
And maybe you'll answer this. I don't know. But the other question I have is when you did the breakdown about what was currently airing, I think it was a third in the studio, a third live events, a third on the street or whatever it was. When did they do the first live remote? Or when did they first start doing that? Because then we kind of have an idea when they even had the capabilities of wiring the Ridgewood Grove Arena, whatever it is.
See, that's the thing is outdoor pickups. I don't know if that means that they went outside, shot it, and then came back and broadcast it, or whether I would have to think, I don't know if they were trying to broadcast live on an outdoor location at that point, but probably somebody's going to tell us. But that was basically the fine point of the thing.
Yeah.
But, Brian, and you sent me this. You know what I'm going into here because I don't know what this guy's name is because you said this is off of Reddit, and I don't know how Reddit works, but it's a page from Reddit.
Yeah, it was.
What is this fellow's name that's done this research?
I don't even know. Someone sent this to us. It was from the Squared Circle page on Reddit, and it's someone who listened to the segment you did, talking about what you discovered at the Pfeffer Library about the earliest known broadcast in the United States of a professional wrestling show, and he had his own research.
And it was W2XAB that were the call letters that letter from up in, where is Schenectady or whatever. But anyway, this fellow has searched for the old listings in newspaper archives, and he found a television listing. Well, it was an article, I guess, or an announcement or whatever, August 27, 1931 issue of the New York Evening Post, where W2XAB announced they plan to air an experimental wrestling match. And the August 23rd edition of the Brooklyn Daily Eagle said that they plan to experiment with different lenses and tinted backdrop screens to enhance the picture quality of its boxing and wrestling telecasts. So they're announcing this that finally is listed, and there's a clipping here of their, and we'll get to this lineup on their experimental television in a minute. But the 15-minute broadcast, simply listed as wrestling match, was broadcast at 10 p.m. on September 17th, 1931.
Wow.
30 years before my birthday. Eddie says by November 1931, boxing and wrestling were among the most popular W2XAB offerings. But let's stop here for a second.
How big was that audience? If a little 10 years later, 9 years later, whatever it was only 2,000 transmitters. How big was the audience in 1931?
Well, see, here is the thing is I don't believe there was technically an audience. I think because, and I don't know, a lot of these, since RCA and NBC was connected to radio also, and that was the reason for the NBC Transmitter magazine, the in-house magazine we were talking about earlier. And that was the reason why the radio listings back then were this in the newspaper every day, like the television listings became. So I'm wondering if they listed the experimental television broadcast in conjunction, possibly because it says M107 2850K. It's got the frequencies. Was this a radio oriented broadcast as well? Whatever the case.
Why did everything sound more like the future then than now?
It does, right?
X25
exactly.
here on the air.
Yes. But here's what I'm going to say is before we talk about the wrestling programs, and I'll read a couple other things here in a second, but It says they plan to experiment with different lenses and tinted backdrop screens.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you about. What does that mean? Where are they?
Well, here's the thing. They says there were limitations. The director fellow was credited William A. Schutt, Schudt. Should he should or he shouldn't? Was credited with inaugurating the early programs, but there were limitations. Boxers and wrestlers alike had to compete in a miniature ring and could easily fall out of the view of the camera. They also fought in a dark studio for the projector's benefit.
Yes, that's what I was wondering, yeah.
Airing blonde competitors was a hassle. In the early 1970s, a couple of Nick Goulas's TVs, like from Huntsville, were so cheap that when the interns were there and they'd shoot them across the ring in their fucking white outfits, it'd just bleed all the way across. It said, which meant light or dark backgrounds were needed to account for each wrestler's hair color. But for the limited audience back then, these minor issues didn't matter. And he says he cannot 100% confirm whether the broadcasts were professional wrestling or amateur wrestling. But one would think if they had a ring, even for boxing, there wasn't a lot of difference in amateur and professional wrestling at that point in people's minds, and there wasn't a lot of amateur wrestling programs. So I think we're looking at wrestling, but here's the point I was going to make with the backgrounds and the different lenses. I don't think there was an audience. I think this was, remember we saw, what was it? It was footage of the early George Hackenschmidt. What did Hackenschmidt footage where he was working out with somebody and that was the film they found?
Yeah, I think so. From England.
And yes, and I think this was kind of a thing where they just had boxers box or wrestlers wrestle, and there's no indication there was any kind of studio audience, and they weren't in an arena if they were experimenting with backgrounds. But listen to this schedule, Brian. From 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. was experimental programs. I have no idea what that might contain.
Sounds far out. I wish I could see that.
Groovy, man.
Experimental TV, yeah.
Hey, just make sure you don't go too far. But then from 8 o'clock until 11 o'clock every 15 minutes. At 8 o'clock, Helen Roland, Contralto. 8:15, sketch, Shadows of the Night. 8:30, How to Finger the Violin with Vincent Sorcy.
Oh, boy.
8:45, Natalie Towers, Characterizations. 9 o'clock, Miniature Musical Comedy. 9:30, Mystery Sketch, The Television Ghost. 9:45, Dave Franklin, Songs. 10 o'clock, Experimental Wrestling Match. 10:15, Elliot Jaffe, Songs. 10:30, Abigail Pericles, Songs. And the last program of the day, 10:45, Cartoons Drawn While You Look.
That's a fascinating show right there.
And none of this could have been live. They had to be filming it first and then broadcasting it, one would think, because they couldn't. How you gonna have a fucking mystery sketch followed by songs, followed by, and here comes the wrestlers.
The other day, one of the listeners, and I apologize for not remembering who it was because they deserve credit. They may have sent it to you too. They sent me some sort of video on YouTube. It looked like it was a History Channel kind of show, but I don't know if it was on the History Channel, about Philo Farnsworth versus RCA versus Sarnsworth. Or not Sarnsworth, Sarnoff, excuse me.
Sarnoff. Sarnoff and Farnsworth. Boy, that sounds like a law firm.
But it was all about that feud. And remember, part of the issue was the patents that Farnsworth had, that he created, was better visually. It used more, I guess, resolution, more, I don't know how to phrase it.
What to say? Same lines. The 525 lines, I think was the standard for a long time that they went to. And I think that was his.
So when you talk about this being shot and the wrestler's hair color being an issue, remember, this wasn't that. This wasn't the technology eventually that RCA was able to use and NBC was able to be formed because of this. This was whatever RCA was developing on their own to the point where they needed to somehow get Farnsworth's patents.
Well, but besides that, I mean, with all due respect to Philo, if you put the picture that his concept could deliver on the receiver that existed at the time and showed it to somebody today, they'd say, my God, anybody looked at that? It still wasn't, goddamn high def, boom, boom, 4K. Again, I'm only 63 still for another 4 weeks or so. But when I was a kid and my grandmother stayed with us and was recovering from surgery and had brought some of her things from home and her little television that was probably from, at the time, 1952. It was a 12-inch screen, black and white, obviously. And it was hard to tell what the fuck was going on the Twilight Zone, much less what they were using that had been manufactured 20 years earlier and wasn't even perfected yet. So,
and again, this is coming from RCA. If I'm hearing everything you're saying correctly and understanding it, I think it's RCA. This is before Rockefeller Center. So wherever they were shooting any of this studio stuff, wrestling or anything else.
It was in Schenectady.
It was in Schenectady. It wasn't.
It was in Schenectady. Because that's at that time, who would have thought that the biggest money-making enterprise in the history of the world about to happen was coming from Schenectady?
Farnsworth was out of Philadelphia. Did he ever do any experimental broadcasts? Because again, if we're just talking about one company, the one that ended up winning.
Well, hold on and then Google this, you son of a gun, because you're quicker at it than I am. But I am still, and I'm trying to think all of the documentaries I've just watched, but Farnsworth was never able to finance anything like the NBC, system on his own. He came up with the concept, and the patents and things on his deal, but was not able to put anything like this in motion.
According to the internet, and they're never wrong.
Never.
Philo Farnsworth conducted experimental television broadcasts from the early 1930s, notably through his station W3XPF in Philadelphia, and later W9WFT in Fort Wayne.
And ain't nothing plain about Fort Wayne. But what was he? What did we need? Well, who was backing him here? Did he have an entire network behind him like NBC did? Or was
I don't think he had that.
Shouting into the wilderness.
I mean, he had investors, and I don't know how much money was pouring in at different times, and he was always searching for more investors because, the philosophy was to try to bankrupt him, making him fight for the rights to his own patent for years and years and years.
Well, then if Philo and Flatto had gotten together, can you imagine that? I'm booked next Tuesday for Philo and Flatto.
I just don't understand how you call like an office up like, "Hi, honey, is he there? It's IT Flatto." That name.
But nevertheless, if Philo had only found Flatto, maybe he would have been broadcasting how to finger the violin. But, a lot of this stuff, there was things going on that we didn't know. And now, 1931, September 17th, a wrestling match that was recorded somehow at some point was broadcast at 10 o'clock Eastern time, I assume. I think that was before they had such a thing.
Now we have to figure out
what that is. On W2XAB.
There has to be a way. We have to figure out what that match is. I may be crazy research from back in the day, but there must be something somewhere.
Well, no, because again, they probably brought him in and just had him in the miniature ring they were using for boxing and experimented with the lighting and had them wrestle it and nobody was there. So Unless Pfeffer kept notes on it.
Hey, it's the right time. It's the right time period. But now this is all fascinating. So we went from thinking it's one thing to another thing. Now we think it's 1931.
We're 15 years. We've added 15 years just with bringing this topic up and getting everybody to chip in and talk about it.
Well, we're now at
that ain't bad.
We're now at 1931. We need to try to find out more information about what that match was, where it was, anything from 31, and then fill in the gaps between 31 and 40.
You know what? I feel like Carl Kolchak in The Night Strangler when he was with Wally Cox in the newspaper morgue, and they were finding a series of similar murders happened every 21 years back to 1880. Man, should we try 1920?
I'm so happy that MeTV is finally taking Kolchak off. I like Kolchak, but it's the same episodes over and over and over nonstop.
Yeah.
So now it's the Adventures of Superman have been added to Saturday nights.
That are the same episodes over and over nonstop.
But they haven't been on in a while. They haven't been on.
But poor Carl. No, they're on.
Well, it's more than one season.
They're on handy TV every Sunday morning.
But there's multiple seasons of The Adventures of Superman. There's one season of Kolchak.
That's not even a long season.
No.
I think it's 24 episodes. I could be wrong. But I so seldom am. Why would we assume that?
And again, all right, like anyway. If they come up with an HD transfer of the Masters, then I'd want to watch it. But it has to look like Mannix. It can't look like Canon. It has to be top of the line, look good, not this we have a VHS copy, we're going to air it.
If you found a kinescope of this 1931 wrestling match, would you want to watch it as it is, or would you want to have it remastered?
I would say, holy shit, we have just discovered that they discovered kinescope years earlier than we thought they did. That'd be what I said.
Well, see, I'm working on that too. We're gonna go the Wayback Machine with those kinescopes also.
It's really interesting just to think about, let's say from this point in time until 1950. Let's use that as the after the war, kind of when TVs really start being sold. Just everything came together. Eventually they have networks, they have channels, they have programming schedules. Everything came together within these years, and the war threw everything off, obviously, but I love this stuff. I'm sorry, I'm just geeking out over here. I apologize.
Well, Larry, it never, the view never changes, baby. The view never changes because there's always a war. There's always the ratings to think about. There's always the audience and who can, shimmy and screw the other person out of that audience and jump in. So should we go from just for a minute from 1931 to 2025 and see that the view never changes, baby? Have you heard that apparently the WWE is... See, Uncle Dave is trying to phrase this or present this as, oh, WWE's really worried about AEW. They're going all out. They're trying to counter program them. They're putting the big shows against him. I take the viewpoint that I think that the WWE, now that they have conquered the world and they're worth $747 billion and 16 cents, I think that they have said now's the time that we can demolish this little motherfucker. We'll just wipe our fucking shoes on him. He's lost talent. He's lost viewers. He's got really the same base, and his TV show creatively is a mess with many people not over or floundering around. So let's just fucking finish it off. And Brian, I don't even know if that's an unpopular viewpoint that I have, or if more people are starting to recognize it, that now they're just not even making any bones about it. We're in a tank and he's in a wheelbarrow, and we're just going to shovel him over.
WWE wants to own the entire industry, and it's not just wrestling, it's everything. It's everything from podcasts to toys to everything. They want to own it all. And if they don't own it, you will be some sort of subservient company reliant on them. Like TNA. And, Tony Khan's biggest threat to WWE is simply money. that he could throw money, he could raise the pay scale, and potentially maybe one of these guys that we have as a star will take him up on his offer. But they're going to do everything they can to stop him. They're going to run against him. They're going to try to make it so he can never get another television deal again. So that even if you don't want WWE TV, they're like, oh, well, here's TNA. Here's AAA. Get some Latino viewers.
Here's NXT.
They are dead set against AEW, and they're going to look to kill AEW, and this shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. It's a little more overt now than even when Vince was there, which is saying something, but it's not necessarily about Tony. They would do it to anyone who was number 2 right now, but Tony specifically, I don't think we're talking out of school saying they don't take Tony seriously. Whether you think they should or shouldn't, they don't. And they also enjoy fucking with AEW. Some of the wrestlers do, but the people who are running things do.
You mentioned it was even more so than when Vince was there. But Vince not only was doing things the old-fashioned way when he would do them, and I don't think that he took AEW that seriously because he never took any other company really seriously except WCW at that time. But at the same time, his people were saying, well, we got to watch the pay scale. But now that there are shark Hollywood agents and big time wheeler, dealer, and deal maker people involved and staffs of them and major corporate executives, even if only one of them was only a 10th as predatory as Vince, there's 3 times as many now of them. So they know all the ways to just fucking bam, bam. And they've got all these deals that they're making and their guarantees that they're getting. And at the same time, they can just elbow this son of a bitch out of the fucking elevator before the doors close. And it's all their group. And we'll talk about a couple of different ways they're doing it, but taking it, I don't know if it's in order, but at least one at a time. So now the pay-per-views on September 20th are there's dueling pay-per-views. I'm getting my 2 teeth pulled on September 22nd. I don't know which I'm looking forward to least over that weekend is having to watch 2 of their pay-per-views at the same time or getting 2 teeth pulled. But this was a recent addition, wasn't it, to the WWE calendar against their September 20th gimmick they're doing?
Yeah. They found out AEW had All Out, and they waited until the very last minute they could, and then they, surprise, announced a premium live event direct head-to-head up against it. Yeah. And now that there's no more pay-per-view, they don't have to worry about, pay-per-view or the cable company saying you can't do this. They could fucking stream anytime they want.
Well, that's the thing is, did they have a big premium live event announced for September already and they changed the date, or did they just, September was open?
I believe it was open.
That because I wouldn't.
I believe it was open, but I'm not certain, but I believe that was the case.
So they just held it. Yeah. Okay. But again, the all in, it's all out this time in September. That's one of Tony's little pride and joys. And, so they're fucking with that. But they're also talking about now, from what I understand, I hear through the grapevine, the idea that they're going to move the Saturday night's main event December date, and which theoretically then would become John Cena's retirement match, to December 27th up against, what do they call, World's End, which it may be. Every year I feel they're going to be prophetic. But if they can work it out with NBC, apparently they're trying to do Cena's retirement against their World's End pay-per-view, and Cena's retirement would be on network television.
I'll save my thoughts or questions about the idea of doing that for after we talk about AEW, but yeah, they're doing that to fuck with AEW, if that happens.
And I mean, that's going to cost them, AEW being them, too many pronouns, pal. That's going to cost them some viewers, definitely off of their couple of their biggest shows of the year, while at the same time, And will you be able to tell if, an extra 150 or 200,000 people didn't tune into Cena's retirement on NBC Christmas week when it'll probably do 2 million fucking people? It's going to be negligible, if anything.
And Tony's pay-per-views are still out there. They're not on Max. You can get them from HBO. You can get them from Amazon or this place or that place. He hasn't sold those rights. WWE just sold their premium live event rights. Separate from everything. I mean, everything is for sale to a different party. It's incredible. But Tony has everything. Everything's in the Warner Brothers Discovery basket. There's no Ring of Honor deal. Dark and Elevation left YouTube. Not that they were great or anything, but it was just programming that one day was gone. And you have these premium live events that apparently they get really good pay-per-view numbers. And that's people having to buy the pay-per-view because there's no $9.99 option.
Well, it's speaking of which, we're going to have to get together, you and me, off the air for you to tell me how the fuck I'm going to watch the AEW pay-per-views, since there's no pay-per-view channel on my cable anymore. And I have to find out who is operating this thing or carrying this thing. And that's, again, the WWE, we mentioned they're doing the different streaming deals, etc. And the news we talked about on the last show we did, where is it Paramount has paid $7 billion for UFC, for the streaming of the shows and etc. So I saw again, somebody just added up for the wrestling without UFC, if you're a fan of both, but just for the wrestling, what will it cost you to buy whatever services you need to either buy the service, buy the show itself, or buy the service that you need to get the thing that the show is on? You know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
It's $100 a month just right now with what they've announced to get everything that the WWE has. And if the UFC is doing something else with somebody else, then if you wanted both, you're closing in on, fucking $2,000 a fucking year or whatever.
Yeah, and they're saying that people with the ESPN deal, like we talked about last time, that potentially if you have cable, you may eventually by the end of the year be able to get it once the cable operators negotiate with ABC and Disney. But if you don't have cable, and the whole thing is that people don't have cable, people are getting rid of cable, then you have to pay $30 a month. So it's going to be very interesting how this works.
Well, yeah, then that's part of the $100 is that you might get the thing for free if you have the other thing, but you have to pay for the other thing, so they're taking that into account.
Yeah, then you'd have to have the other thing, and people are dropping cable, so people are just going to have to get the $30 thing. Us cable people, we have a good deal.
And it's this, that, or the other thing. And in the meantime, finally in the financial news, now they're saying the WWE is plotting to help TNA get on television. Have you heard about this, Brian? Have you read about this? And put them on TV in opposition to AEW. And
does that surprise you? Does that surprise you in any way?
Well, no. And yet you've been calling this all along. But now it's an example of, well, here's this separate entity that we don't own and actually control, kind of, but they are our little buddy and they will do whatever we want. And so we ain't gonna fuck with them. So it's a block against the antitrust monopoly accusations. And it's also another product that can independently, with a little nudge in the ribs, be pitched by more professional people and people that have a track record in this major entertainment landscape, instead of Tony Khan trying to talk Jack Warner into putting Ring of Honor on their network when their viewers on the existing programs are drooping.
Tony needs to fight back. What he should do right now is put together a 2-hour highlight reel of the Vince Russo years and send it to every television executive and say, this is TNA. Watch this. Make them answer for this. No, they're going to do everything they can to drive Tony out of business and to own the entirety of the professional wrestling space. And there are rumors going around about a TNA sale. I don't know how true they are. I only saw a couple things, but even the names being rumored or people tied in with TKO and people who are working with TKO, they want it all under their umbrella. And they're going to get a Japanese company one of these days. And I've said it before. I want Tony Khan needs to fight back. I want him to fight back for the health of wrestling. Someone needs to fight back. And then I want to root for the guy. And then I watch his show and I'm like, man, this fucking sucks.
And then we'd have this.
Yeah, like the booking is horrible. Don't tell me, oh, we do have stories. If the stories suck, your stories suck. But the booking's horrible. It's like, fuck, how's he going to fight back? But he needs to. And, it's not going to stop with Tony. It's not going to stop with Poland. It's not going to stop. They're going to keep going. No, WWE wants to take over every aspect of everything. If there is a media deal to be had for professional wrestling, the agents who run WWE want that deal. And they want all that money. And they want to keep building up the stock value. So eventually, they can convince some friendly Saudi to buy it. But this is not going to change. And Tony Khan needs to fight back. I just don't know how he will. And
I don't know how.
And I think I hate to use the word arrogant, but I think he's arrogant enough to think that he has a handle on it. And then people on the outside who talk to people in that company or just are paying attention realize, no, you don't. You don't have the team. You don't have the team in terms of talent. You don't have the team in terms of executives. And it's going to be interesting how this plays out. But at some point, and I'm not going to go through it all, but Brandon Thurston put up a series of tweets looking at the MLW lawsuit and what is and isn't a monopoly right now, or an attempt to have a monopoly. But we're looking at WWE trying to set themselves up for a monopoly. But hey, you can't say that because the AWA is in Minnesota, so they'll have TNA.
And here's the thing. Tony's like his baby faces. He's kind of ineffectual and nobody thinks that he can whip anybody.
Yeah.
He can't fight this. Look at the way he comes off to big business typhoons. And, I'm sorry, but it's a whole nother world. And, that's the thing is again, I don't say arrogant because that makes him sound like some kind of,
and I don't mean it that way.
Smooth operator.
Yeah, I think
but it's the same. More like clueless. Like, well, they can't do that to me. I've got a lot of money. Well, they just did it to you because they got even more money now.
Because he's going to be fucking heartbroken when Warner Brothers Discovery or whoever owns it at that point in time says we're not renewing you. Where's he going to go? He's not going to Disney. They got WWE. He's not going to Fox. He's not going to, Fox apparently already said no. They're not going to CW. They're not going to NBC Universal, who owns USA Network. They're not going to Netflix or, as of this moment, Peacock, you wouldn't think. And again, that's part of NBC Universal. YouTube's talking to WWE. There's something that's going to go down. It'll probably be the catalog, but we'll see. But there's going to be nowhere to turn.
Nowhere to run to, baby. Nowhere to hide. Oh, you know where that you can turn and hide?
Nowhere. Tell me, please.
Brian, I'll tell you where you can turn and hide from all of this stress and discomfort and achy paininess that you have. And the way you can unwind cornbread hemp CBD gummies.
Oh, yeah.
That's the way you can turn and hide there. Just burrow down into one of these things, because if you want a natural way to relieve the aches and discomfort that comes with living a life, if you want to de-stress and maintain not only your physical, but your mental wellness, a peace of mind, Brian, all I want is to have my peace of mind. You can sit down with a CBD gummy, courtesy of Cornbread Hemp, and you can put Boston on the headphones. And boy, howdy, it'll take you back to the days when life was worth living.
You hear singing like that, you wish England won in Boston.
Well, hey, don't mess with my tea party. Cornbread hemp CBD gummies are made to help you feel better, whether it's stress, whether it's discomfort, just needing a little relaxation. They only use the best part of the hemp plant, the roots. No, I'm saying it's the flower for the purest and most potent CBD. I thought the best part of the plant would be the roots. That's where all the life comes from. It grows out. Well, you eat a lot of beetroot, don't you, to keep regular?
You talking to me?
Yeah, I'm talking to you.
I don't need a lot of beetroot. What are you talking about?
Oh, you're supposed to eat beetroot and fucking onion cloves.
I don't know who's
from to keep your poop going regular.
Well, once again, we're not talking about the roots. Yes. We're talking about the best part of the plant.
Yes, the best part of the plant is the price. I'm fixing to save you some money. They use only the best parts, and they are formulated to help relieve the discomfort, the stress, the sleeplessness, the sleepless nights, laying awake, tossing and turning. And all of the products from our friends at Cornbread Hemp, based right here in Louisville, Kentucky, are third-party lab tested. They will not go to a lab unless they've been to at least 3 parties in that place so they can see what their pharmaceuticals are like. Boy, howdy, you ought to go to one of these things. The fucking black light and the disco ball.
Not that kind of party.
Holy shit.
No, this is, of course, an outside party that because
several of them ended up outside in the yard, in the parking lot.
We're talking about the best part of the plant, and we're talking about the best deal for the listeners, and let's plant that in the ground and go that way.
Yes. Well, they're USD organic, USDA organic, or USDA organic.
To ensure safety. It's not or.
It has to be one or the other. To ensure safety and purity. And, if you take one of these, it'll automatically turn you back into a virgin.
No, that will not happen.
Right now, no. I'm telling you what, boy, howdy.
You're not.
Yeah, well, no, I'm telling you that right now you can save money. You can save money because all you got to do is go to Cornbread, that's CORNBREAD, cornbreadhemp.com/JCE, and you're going to save 30% off your first order. 30% off your first order of these fine, pure, potent, and good for you CBD gummies at cornbreadhemp.com/JCE. 30% off just like that because we put the word in for you.
That's right. A great product. Very popular here at Last Manor. I know there's some big fans over there at Castle Cornette. Cornbread Hemp. A great deal. One last time, Jim, that promo code.
Well, it's JCE. I mean, at this point, Brian, we've been doing this for so many years. Don't you think you'd remember it?
You may try to mess me up and say ECJ.
Well, I'm not easy. I don't know about you.
Well, you could mess me up. But once again.
JEC almost sounds like, that almost sounds right.
Well, once again, ladies and gentlemen, don't be messed up. Don't be almost right. Be right. I don't know how any of this ties together.
Be messed up the right way.
Cornbread Hemp.
Yes. And don't eat the roots. Anyway, speaking of roots, let's get to the root of a problem here. There's debate on the internet. Brian, I don't know if you're up to date on this. I need some guidance. The Karrion Kross situation, is it a work? Is it not? Did his contract expire? His contract expired allegedly. They want him. They want her. They want both. They don't want either. He's beating around the bush in some fashion and creating some attention and interest in this one way or the other. But I'm wondering why that they would want to, if this is all a carefully contrived work. Is he interesting enough or enough of a top guy if they gave him the push that it would be worth? Is he Brian Pillman all over again? These are my thoughts.
Well, we have some audio we could play. He was on the Ariel Helwani show. Now that in and of itself made some people say, look, see, it's a work. Ariel Helwani has a very friendly relationship with WWE. Why else would he be booked on this show? And then he immediately came out on social media and said, it's not a work. It's not anything like that. Paul Heyman had previously been on the Ariel Helwani show and put over Karrion Kross, saying that the groundswell of support, I'm paraphrasing, was akin to the way the support started for Steve Austin, is what Paul Heyman said.
Well, Paul does have a flowery way of phrasing most everything, but I don't see that, but I think we're being a little grandiose. Go ahead.
And again, he disappeared. They didn't renew his contract after he seemingly was getting more TV time on his own than he ever had before. The stable with him and Paul Ellering and the Authors of Pain was not exactly doing it. Everything since NXT has been off. Was finally connecting. Here he is talking with Ariel Helwani on the Ariel Helwani Show. This is about this not being a work.
People could talk about the unreals and all that stuff. I think there are certain questions that you shouldn't ask out of respect for what you do and what it's all about.
I appreciate that.
But I do feel like I need to ask you a certain amount of questions, and I need to be as sort of pointed as possible, okay?
Sure, of course.
Are you working us right now?
No. I'm not answering questions today as a character.
This is legit.
Yeah.
This is Kevin.
Yep.
Okay. What you put out on your YouTube channel on Sunday evening, a riveting documentary that I urge everyone to see. You almost have about 800,000 views as of right now in 3 days. That's incredible. You said that your WWE...
Well, actually, it cuts off right there. We'll pick up more audio here. What are your initial thoughts? Just the idea he's being asked if this is a work, and he's immediately saying no.
Well, that would be what you would say if you were working somebody. Wouldn't it? See that... God damn it. I don't, my head is spinning because of the world that wrestling is in these days. But again, if you're working somebody, the first thing you're going to do is deny that you're working them. So that in itself means nothing. And you would say, no, I'm here. I'm not in character now. I'm here as Kevin. That in itself means nothing. What I'm trying to figure out is what is the upside potentially of going to all this trouble? And yes, he was getting himself over with promos and different things, but it didn't particularly look like they were trying to shove him down anybody's throat. And every time he has a big match with Sammy, he pretty much loses it, and they don't set the world on fire. And so and I've got thoughts about, is this a Jerry Lawler type of walkout because they fired the cat if they just didn't want Scarlett? And he said, well, I ain't going to take your offer. There's all kinds of things that can, and there's a rumor going out they didn't want Scarlett. And I don't really know what purpose Scarlett serves besides giving us something to look at while Karrion Kross is out there.
Well,
but go ahead with your story.
Yeah, well, it's not my story. It's his story, and it was told to Ariel Helwani.
And he's sticking to it.
On the Ariel Helwani Show. This is Karrion Kross talking about the contract that was presented to him.
Well, I mean, truth of the matter is, I mean, you've already stated, like, you know, my contract was up last week. I never actually received a contract, like an offer, until last week. So...
Do you remember what day? So your contract expired August 10th, which I do believe was Sunday.
Yeah. I think it was Tuesday off the top of my head.
Okay.
You know, I got the offer. I wanted to know how they came to the valuation of that offer. Just wanted, you know, like some information, some metrics, some analytics that's supporting to, hey, this is how we got here. When I inquired about that, they were unwilling to provide that information and told me I had 24 hours to agree to the offer or they were rescinding it. So, you know, the next day we talk. I ask if they have the information. They don't. And I said, I can't make an informed decision without the information. And I'd like to keep the dialogue open.
Well, let me stop it there.
What are the analytics exactly? I mean, do they have analytics now? Is that a thing that they have they have to show anybody? Where like
I never realized he was Canadian. He must be Canadian, right? That accent.
I don't know.
I don't know. I gotta look into it. I thought he was from Queens.
Look into that. Well, maybe he's from Long Island and he's just hoity-toity. But nevertheless, the
metrics,
point is,
no, there could be real metrics. For instance, I mean, assuming it's everything, merch. How much merch am I selling? How valuable am I when it comes to that in terms of if he's moving any numbers? I don't know if they present that to people. I mean, that's another issue altogether.
Well, I mean, you're allowed to, you're allowed to check into your merchandise sales, but I'm not talking about that. It's all bullshit. The only thing you ought to be asking is, because this is the way that they used to do it, offer him what the other guys in the spot that we've got for him on the card are making. Because, that's about it. I mean, unless you're Steve Austin or some major superstar where you have a track record of look at the business this pay-per-view did or this series of live events did when I was on top. Again, what metrics can they have for Karrion Kross, who's just been on the card, that was going to do, and this is not even disrespectful to him because there's a lot of talented people on the cards that how would you quantify that? Because the house and the ticket sales and the rating would have been the same either way, whether they were there or not, except when you get to the top guys. And he hasn't been there yet, so he has no track record. So how would they have analytics? Yeah, all the shows that you've been on and Cena was in the main event of, they've done great. So let's give you a raise. How does that work?
I'm not sure, but to answer your question from earlier, here's Ariel Helwani talking to Karrion Kross, or the former Karrion Kross, about Scarlett.
When they made that offer, was it for the two of you?
Nothing. She had nothing. There was no offer to her.
Nothing?
No. I was told at one point, because I did inquire, of course.
Yeah.
After we deal with you, we'll deal with her.
Do you think that they were going to get to her? Like once they were probably hoping you'd say yes, do you think they were going to get to her? Or do you think there was a chance that she was not going to be brought back regardless?
I don't know.
Wow.
But I don't see why we just could not have done things the way we did them before,
Well, that's that clip right there. What do you think?
Those words have been said quite often. I don't know why we could have just done the things the way we did it before. I mean, and again, we weren't in the room. We're not in the conversation. We're speculating on what we're being told. But from, again, just experience in the office, maybe somebody's saying, they probably, they had contracts that were signed for the same terms or for the same term length of time, I should say, at the same time. So they kind of were together, and maybe they want to sign him for a longer period of time than they wanted to sign her. Maybe they don't really want to sign her at all. Maybe it just, they want to do something different with him. Who knows what the fuck?
But do they have to say that? I mean, that's how you break up a marriage. We signed him. We'll deal with her after you. By the way, we're not going to deal with her.
Well, I love the way, I wonder if it was really fucking phrased that way. We'll deal with her as soon as we finish dealing with you. And like after we finish dusting you off, motherfucker. I mean, again, this is his side of the story. Is he saying, well, where's her contract? Well, we don't want her. Well, when you send her one, I'll look. I mean, who knows? Who knows? But I think that he's doing a wonderful job of calling attention to this, but I don't know why. And I've been fooled here recently. They'll go to any lengths, but why for him? I don't see it, him or them or this as an attraction that can be made with a payoff that is commensurate with the effort to go into working the boys about a mid-card guy's contract. But I mean, maybe they just got a lot more employees up there, so they got a lot more people to have things to do.
And what do you think about the idea that it's a work? It seems like the only thing they'd be promoting is if he made a surprise appearance somewhere else.
Well, but again, if he made a surprise appearance somewhere else, I might think it was a work. If he starts making a bunch of advertised appearances ahead of time, then that might say that maybe they just didn't want Scarlett and he got mad.
Because the guy that you see ranting about WWE, the next step would be you want to see him on the opposition show saying these things, and all of a sudden you have a character you could believe in. But we haven't really known for a while what's going on with his creative and his booking. And remember, after WrestleMania, literally right after WrestleMania, he did a promo online. I mean, they're all online at this point, saying that this isn't Karrion Kross, this is Killer Kross. And everyone was buzzing about it. It was a really good promo.
Yeah.
Scarlett sat there. It was a really good promo, to her value. She, no, I shouldn't say anything, But it was a really good promo. Here's what Karrion Kross says the creative team, and of course that means Triple H running the creative team, what they thought of the promo.
Everybody was cool with it. They were like, holy cow. You know, they said another word we're not going to say, but yeah, everyone was really blown away. And I let everybody know, let's make sure this is somewhat protected from the audience, but let everyone know internally that this is a work, because not every department is constantly in lockstep communication with one another. So I told everybody that. Sure enough, not everybody knew that was a work.
You think it backfired?
Well, I can't say that it backfired, but people were very upset with it because they thought it was real.
When you say people, specifically like
higher ups, I'll say higher ups.
They were offended, or did they feel like you were too aggressive? Like, what could they have been upset? How would a wrestling lifer see that and be like, yeah, that's too far, or you crossed the line, or is this real or not?
I don't want to speak on behalf of them, but this is what I will say about it. So a lot of everything that you see goes through the creative process. It goes through a team. I was under the impression that we were doing something improvisationally and it was okay. But like I said, sometimes the communication is not in lockstep with each other. So no one told them that this was a work. No one said, I shook everybody's hands. I gave Megan a hug before I left. So they're under the impression, like a week goes by, that, I flipped out. So, let
me stop it there for a moment. He has a little bit more about this specific thing, but so he does this promo. The creative team doesn't know. He thinks they're under some sort of arrangement where, let's all do improvisational stuff. What do you think of this story so far?
Well, the one comment that Ariel Helwani made there was, well, what do the wrestling lifers think? Were they upset? I think probably the wrestling lifers, because I'm one, the first thing I would have said when I heard that, if I didn't know anything about the genesis of it, what he was supposed to say or told to say, whatever, I would go to whoever did know and say, was that a work? I wouldn't just, because I would, to be quite honest with you, I thought that it was from the beginning, because when we saw him again, that was either his goddamn notice on the air, or they told him to say it to get attention, or let him say it to get attention. So I think he's talking about hires up. So we're not talking about just the average greenhorns in the locker room.
We're talking about Triple H and Bruce Pritchard and Koski.
Well, but no, I'm thinking Triple H, if nobody told Triple H he was going to say things like that, then Triple H would have probably fired the guy that said it was okay, but then didn't tell him. It wouldn't have been the heat on Kross. And Bruce would have been like, what the fuck? But Bruce probably didn't like it, because he doesn't like anything that approaches a shoot of any kind. But I'm thinking it had to be the writing staff that was offended, not the wrestling people, but the writing people, that from the way that he phrased that, because it was primarily them that would have been offended by everything that he said. But no, if you have been in the business very long at all, in the actual wrestling business, you would have either said he's working, or you would have gone to the ultimate authority that would know whether or not that he had just had a goddamn mental breakdown, or whether somebody said it was okay to say that.
What do you think?
Before you formed an opinion.
Before we continue on with this specific question and anything else here, what do you think right now? After hearing what you've heard, do you think it's a work?
I'm not saying it might not turn into one eventually if everybody just calms down and starts talking again. But I think it's, again, a very odd work to use it on this guy. And it's probably from some ill feeling about they didn't want Scarlett, or they didn't want Scarlett as long, or they wanted to make sure they had Kross before they signed. What would happen if they gave them both a contract and Scarlett signed hers, Kross didn't sign his? And then, what the fuck? I mean, any of these things can be going on. I'm sure the other side has some points, but it's an odd work at this point.
There are so many couples now in wrestling, I mean, everywhere, that you don't really hear too much about that idea, that maybe more of an idea of the past where it was a commodity to have a woman on the show, the idea of it's a package deal. If you want my girl, and I hate to put it that way, but if you want my wife, whatever it is, you got to book me. And the same thing the other way. She comes with me.
Yeah, or Sable and Marrow. You know, you got to have him to get her. They may be trying to avoid that type of situation. I don't know, but it's an odd work.
Let's go back to this about the reaction from higher ups to his promo after WrestleMania.
One day I waited for Hunter outside the production meeting once it was actually brought to my attention that he was not okay with it. And I explained everything to him. No one told him anything. Mm. So as far as I know, at that point, we were good. But everyone was under the impression, a lot of people, like I just lost my mind. I was just trying to do my job.
Well, hold on. There you go. Because if he had to pull Triple H aside and say, well, hey, you know, then I want to know who cleared it and what the conversation was with Triple H and them is what I want to know.
That's my job that day was to make people believe like any other day. And yeah.
Do you think it's possible that they thought that you were going into business for yourself or maybe trying to take away from WrestleMania because you weren't a part of the...
Oh, that's where that clip ends here. Again, this is all from the Ariel Helwani show. So the creative team, led by the guy who runs the company right now, didn't know what he was doing and thought he lost his mind, and somehow there was radio silence or whatever it was for a week. Again, if you're the booker... I mean, how does it break?
See, I don't know about that either, though, because if I was Triple H and I was in any way upset about what he said, I would have got to the root of it before I left the building. I would have either talked to who was producing the segment, or I would have gone to the guy himself and probably the producer, because it'd be quicker and get a straighter answer. Except if the producer then was the one that was like, oh, maybe the producer said, oh, shit, I didn't know he was going to say all that stuff. And,
well, again, he does this promo.
But that's the problem with having all these different shows and pregame shows and postgame shows and internet shows and this and that. They've got all these different crews and all these different producers going through all this stuff. And did somebody overstep their authority to bless that? Potentially,
Well, he talks a little bit here. Let's play this for a moment. Because remember, they put him in this feud with Sami Zayn, which started where like they had these backstage confrontations where he was telling Sami that he had the, I guess for lack of a better term, let the heel out if he really wants to get the world title. And then they had these matches that felt like they were building towards him winning something. And he lost every single match.
And he was still trying to get Sami to commit an evil deed, which Sami never did.
Well, here he is talking about the booking for Night of Champions.
Even though he's a commie dirtbag, Sami would not commit an evil deed.
Well, those are not your words. They may not. The audience will have to listen to the rest of the show, but
yeah, everybody, you need to start to finish. All this shit will make sense.
Jim, here is Karrion Kross, the former Karrion Kross. I don't know what it is, talking about how he got booked for that show, Night of Champions, against Sami Zayn in Saudi Arabia.
Can you tell us about that?
I really only kind of want to say what I said in the documentary, which was essentially Ron had pulled me aside and talked to me, and he basically, he knows what's going on with me. He's been in my corner. He's always been in my corner. I've always been in his. Ron's somebody I've always gotten along with. We have mutual friends. Shout out to Conan. Yeah, I love that dude.
Who is Ron?
I'm not sure. Ron Killings, maybe? Are there any other Rons on the roster? What happened to his push?
I was about to say, wait a minute. I forgot. He was supposed to be a big star. Jesus Christ, what they didn't.
Another casualty of the Cena turn. Ron Killings. Well, let's go back to this.
Night of Champions was a little rough because one of my relatives, my Uncle Chris, had passed away a little bit before Night of Champions, and the process of developing a service for him was taking a little bit. So right around the time that my family had announced we were going to do a service for him, I got a call to ask me to go to Night of Champions. So I told the person over the phone, let me call you back. Let me see how like my family feels about this, because I don't want to agree to anything over the phone. I'm thinking I'm going to the service. So that Night of Champions match didn't happen. I spoke to some of my relatives and they said, your Uncle Chris would want you to go do this match. You can grieve anytime you want. This is something that's coming around right now and it's important that you go. So I had their support. I spoke to quite a few of them and that was kind of the consensus. So I went, and it's just, you're in the moment and you're enjoying it. No regrets about it. But then there's also that, and you're in this weird seesaw all day and the whole trip. Like almost feels sometimes like guilty that you're having a good time with this on your mind. And I just kept thinking about him all day and talking to him under my breath. I talked to Ron a little bit about that on the plane.
You know, I'm getting the impression he seems like one of these guys that it's awful hard to negotiate with because he thinks deeply about everything. You know what I mean, Brian? Have you ever had that in your lines of work like we have in the wrestling business when you get a guy that just thinks real deeply about everything?
You know, I think he should go to Hollywood. I think he is a good actor, and maybe he could. He has a good look, and he's not like too big, so maybe he could do something there. But let's go to this.
He's not too big.
This is Karrion Kross talking about other promotions if they've reached out to him. I believe this is our final clip from the Ariel Helwani show. Let's go to this.
That was the advice that I was given.
Okay. So. Since Sunday, have other promotions reached out to you?
Yeah, of course.
Big ones?
Yes.
Can I ask specifically?
You can ask, but I won't tell you, brother.
Has AEW reached out?
No.
No?
No.
Are you surprised?
No.
Why?
A lot of people.
Let me stop it there. If big promotions reached out and it wasn't AEW, who was it?
I was about to say we're awful short on the list at this point after that.
Hello, Karrion. This is Shinma. What are you doing? Friday.
Yeah. What about Gleet? I wonder if Gleet has called. If Gleet has called, then we know that the bidding war is on. But first of all, I think AEW, they're probably thinking, we're not going to get in this right now. This probably is a fucking work. We'll look bad. They're trying. It's a Trojan horse. They're trying to swerve us. And to be quite honest, he ain't their kettle of fish in the ring. He's not going to do all that shit with the children. He didn't take bumps for Sami Zayn. And that audience is so antithetical. Oh, another WWE guy. And then how much would Scarlett want? And would that upset not the apple cart, but the peach cart over in the women's locker room?
And there may be people there who were there in TNA who they have issues with, which would be a whole nother thing. And again,
I forgot about the family of Don.
Well, let's go. Let's get away from that Scarlet Fever and let's go back to the remaining audio here from Ariel Helwani and Karrion Kross.
No.
Why?
A lot of people think it's a work.
They were the ones I was thinking of when you said, hey, people don't know whether or not to reach out. Because the theory that I've heard is if Kross shows up on TNA, this is all a work because they're in cahoots, right?
Right.
If he shows up on AEW, obviously this isn't a work.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that sentiment?
Yeah, that's what everyone is thinking. I've read it. I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen it. Everyone's thinking I'm just going to pop up under some other company that's in the WWE umbrella. They're hoping I do because this seems so nonsensical to people. People are following the course of events that have happened to get to here, and they're going, how did this happen? This must not be real because this makes no sense. And
let me stop it there for a second. He's right. That's the biggest argument for it being a work, the fact that he was getting over. The fans were finally reacting to him, the guy who takes no bumps. The fans are reacting to the guy who takes no bumps. That's a sign in the right direction if you really think about it. And they book him into oblivion, and he's gone.
But I maintain what I said a little while earlier. I think he's still got a ceiling unless they are confident that, this is the start of great things for Karrion Kross. I look and see, he ain't going to get over to LA Knight's fucking level. Just me. But besides that, again, he could just be one of these guys that they just were like, you know what, Jesus Christ, we don't want to talk to him anymore about fucking analytics. This is a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Or we don't want the wife, or I mean, sometimes those things happen and it's inexplicable to the talent, but it's not inexplicable to the office. Or they could have a tremendous idea to break him loose into the stratosphere that I don't see working, but they're going for it anyway. But he better hope that it's a work, because if it ain't a work, he can't show up in TNA because they're part of the system, and he ain't going to show up in WWE, and he ain't going to show up in AAA. And if AEW doesn't want him, he ain't got no place else to pop up.
Well, let's go back to the remaining audio.
Believe me, I also think that this makes no sense either.
Yeah.
This is baffling to me too. And it drives me nuts that I actually even have to admit that. It is baffling.
It is.
So
it would be an all-time story if you go up and show up on the indies and then come back. That's what people are concocting this.
Mm-hmm.
But you have said repeatedly this is not the case. Mm-hmm. And so are you open to even talking to others at the moment, or are you still holding out hope that things will get sorted with WWE?
I've talked to many.
Oh, and that's where that one cuts off. He's still holding out hope.
Well, he's talked to many others, but the rec center just,
Oh, wait, here's something.
Doesn't want to give him the extra hot dogs.
Well, here's a little bit about that.
Personally.
No.
Why not?
I had a conversation with him earlier in the year
about Triple
all of
H.
this. They took a point man and they put him between us to communicate. So now the point man is responsible for all of the dialogue.
You can't circumvent that guy. You have a personal relationship, a history with Paul.
He knows that I want to talk.
Yeah.
And he knows what I want to do. He knows.
Are you tempted to send him a text?
I don't know what I would send him, because that guy who they put in front of them to talk to me is telling me that everything is coming from them.
Got it.
I've made it very, very clear that I want to keep the lanes of communication and dialogue open. It's a very weird situation.
Yeah.
It's weird, dude.
I get it.
So I've conveyed everything. There's really this is the way forward. Everyone just needs to stop being weird.
In life.
Well, let's stop it there.
See, this he's starting to convince me this is real. Because here's the thing. He is astonished. And he's a very good actor, but still he sounds genuinely astonished. Why can't I talk to Triple H while this point man? Because it sounds to me like that Triple H he's not high on Triple H's priority list. And Triple H has given Joe Schmidlap the job of, look, get this guy under a fucking deal like we talked about, or let him loose, one or the other. I ain't got time. And Kross can't understand it because it's him, and he don't want to think that, well, Triple H just don't give a shit and he ain't got time for me. I'm not The Rock. I'm not Cena. I'm not whatever.
Well, there it is. There's another quote where he talks about how much it means to him that Paul Heyman has been so publicly supportive of everything. So obviously he has supporters that are part of the creative team, and Triple H was a supporter.
And what would an athlete be without his supporter?
There you go. It's an interesting scenario, the idea that he just left and he's immediately did this very, very public promo. Do you think this scares off someone from signing him?
Well, I mean, I don't know that there's a ton of fucking people that need scared right now. Again, we just went through who's it going to be for anything meaningful. Is he trying to, again, fly his own flag and force the issue and get the talk out there and make himself, the center of attention, controversial, what's going on, because he thinks it'll force their hand if it's real, or he's doing what he would do if it's a work.
You said it before, and it really hit me as I was listening to him talk. It does remind me of the Jerry Lawler cat thing, because right after it happened, Jerry Lawler was doing interviews. And I remember it was kind of like the same thing. Like, I don't know. They didn't tell me. They just said, good luck, and shook my hand. It's kind of the same thing. I'm not saying it's the same thing, but it feels very similar.
Well, and that's the thing, is that he may be trying to press this issue on his own because he can't understand it that, well, why all of a sudden? And if it's real, then somebody on the creative team or somebody in the office has said, for whatever reason, we don't want one, we don't want the other, we don't want both of them together, or they're a pain in my ass for some reason. Either deal with this guy or let him go. And if Triple H is not, again, if they have big plans for the guy enough to do a big worked angle like this, then it just seems odd that he would throw in that he's got a middleman. He's not talking to Triple H. That seems like an odd detail because you would want to think, well, Triple H is trying to talk me into it, but something like that, rather than, no, they're treating me like a fucking flunky.
Well, that's the other thing. I used to hear that with Vince all the time. Like, Vince likes me. Vince isn't the problem. It's these people in between Vince and me. They're the ones letting me go.
Yeah.
But it's like, Laurinaitis can't let you go unless Vince says it's okay. It's not just him doing it willy-nilly. And that sounds a little bit of like what's going on here if this is all not a work also. But we shall see.
Nevertheless, we will keep on top of that. We will keep who are you going to put on the Kross beat, the Karrion Kross beat this week? Does Sharknado have anything to do?
He's plenty busy, and we'll find out what's going on. I'll see if Kippelman has any time for the whatever the hell it is we're talking about here. But yes.
Well, you know what? Just make sure they all get a good night's sleep, Brian.
I mean, I don't know how I'm going to do that, but what do you have?
Well, I know how you can do it because we can tell the folks right now how you can do it. Everybody knows how you can get a good night's sleep, wake up refreshed with no grogginess, and that's with our friends over at Beam and their amazing, fantastic, wonderful Beam's Dream Powder. You just get some of the Dream Powder and you mix it up and you drink it down. It's an all-natural sleep blend with science-backed ingredients. Backed by the science, and an old scientist also. He's hunched over, he's got gray hair, a little goatee, and he's made this stuff designed to help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up refreshed. And unlike other sleep aids, there is no next day grogginess, just real deep sleep that helps you feel good in the morning. What morning that is depends on how much of it you take. It could be the next day. It could be the day after. It could be the day after that, but you're not going to be groggy.
We're focusing on the next morning, which will be the likely result, of course, from a wonderful night's sleep with a delicious drink of Beam.
Yes, well, and sometimes you need to get a head start on that morning and do it the morning or two previous and just sleep all the way through and you'll even yourself out.
I don't think that's how it works, but it works the normal way for the listeners. Jim.
Yes, and, if you add Dream Powder to your routine, you're going to sleep through the night without tossing and turning, a whipping and a whopping and a flipping and a flumping, reeling and a rocking until the break of dawn. Again, you wake up refreshed, not exhausted. And I know many people in today's world have the problem with waking up from a long night's sleep and they're exhausted over it. Well, sleep will not be tiring. On the Beam Dream Powder, they've improved over 17.5 million nights of sleep. 92% of users surveyed reported better sleep and waking up refreshed, and 8%, I'll have you know, reported that they were going to come back and let us know how things worked out because that was actually the first time they'd ever gone to sleep. And it was so shocking an experience, they wanted to do it again. But Beam's an American company. Brian, did you know that?
It's a wonderful company, a wonderful drink, a wonderful solution to those needing a good night's sleep without the grogginess in the morning. Our friends, the very, very fine people at Beam.
That's right. You just, again, you put the Dream Powder in the water and you mix it up and you drink it down, and be sure you're wearing a helmet if you're standing up, because when you fall over unconscious, hits your stomach.
That's not, ladies and gentlemen. Boom. The goofy comedy part is over. There will be no helmet needed. You will get a good night's sleep. You will escort yourself to your bed after having a nice drink of Beam's Dream Powder.
Well, you can escort yourself, but wear your knee pads because when you're crawling up those stairs, boy. But
you don't need any guards. No.
What most people do is they'll call an EMT about 30 minutes ahead of time, so that once you take the Dream Powder, sitting down, the EMT can help you to the bed.
Again, not needed, and this is part of the silly part, but of course the legitimate, realistic, let's pay attention to the facts, ma'am, part is talking about the benefits and the deliciousness and the usefulness of Beam's Dream Powder. Jim, let's get through the rest of this without any improvisation.
And there is also, in addition to all those other things you mentioned, there's the cost of the thing, because now you can save up to 40% off.
Yes.
It's their best offer yet for a limited time only. Beam is giving our listeners, that's you out there in Beamland, up to 40% off. You go to Shop Beam, BEAM, shopbeam.com/JCE. Use the code JCE at checkout. You're going to get up to 40% off on the fabulous, the wonderful, the well-working, science-backed, American-made Beam Dream Powder that will help you sleep like a baby rocking in a cradle all night long and well into the next day if you play your cards right. And also, when you wake up the next day, you will recognize almost everyone in your immediate family.
There will be no changes. There will be no changes in your recognition skills, ladies and gentlemen. But you can recognize a good deal, and that's what we're delivering to you, a good deal from Beam. Jim, I understand you were about to say the actual link.
Yes, the actual link, shopbeam.com/JCE. Use the code JCE for up to 40% off, and don't worry, you'll remember what Aunt Fanny looks like, but Uncle Chester, he's kind of plain anyway. Anybody can forget about him.
Don't worry, sleep happy with Beam.
Oh, you know what? Somebody ought to write that and make it a song. Don't worry, sleep happy.
Well, I don't know if we could steal that, but again, you could steal a good night's sleep anytime you want with Beam. And yes, this is your show.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Well, it was somebody else's show on August the 13th when AEW did their weekly thing that they do on the network, on the cable cast. They're in the Brady Music Center in Cincinnati, or they were this past week, Brian. And those people, they're in a music center, but they ain't doing a lot of singing. The people were kind of like, what the fuck is going on? This show, I'll tell you where I finally threw in the towel, but it gets more and more incomprehensible. And there's just nothing. They devalue everything that they try to do. They have a champion, so then they have 27 champions. They do an angle, they do 20 million angles. They do the same kind of shit endlessly, to where in this thing with this Darby Allin, they put a guy in a bag and took him out of a bag, and the other guy was in the bag, and now they're going to take it, knock his head off and break his neck. And what in the flying fuck is going on? I don't know. But does that preface the show well enough so we can get started at the top of the program?
You know, I said it a little earlier when we were talking about how WWE is going after AEW. I want to root for AEW now more than ever. I want Tony Khan to fight back. I want there to be a strong number two, or at least a strong system outside of WWE. And then I watched this show and I'm like, man, fuck this company. This is the worst booked show ever. You know, even for the people that are like, no, you guys say there are no stories. They have great stories. They have awful stories. This is the worst booked show. And they do nothing to like build up past their base audience. I'm not even talking about like long term. Just every show is just for like the tiniest audience. And man, this is a bad show. I would have left when you left. I don't even know when you left. I had to watch the whole thing because I thought you watched the whole thing.
Oh, no. But anyway, nevertheless, they bring MJF out at the start. and they still react to him, but it's not like the old days. And granted, they're in a smaller building than they used to be in, but it just he's introduced as the CMLL world champion because now they feel they have to work with CMLL because AAA is with WWE, and that may be fine to work with them, but the guy that wants the world title is already coming out with a world championship belt. But he's going for another world. Everybody has a belt. It's been way past meaningless.
And I'd rather watch him in the main events at Arena Mexico than against Adam Page. That's where you get real heat. That's where it's like a real fun show.
That's another part of the problem is here comes Page. And they're stuck with him as champion after the last unpalatable champion. And they're going to have a face-off in the ring with nobody in the ring, nobody separating them because they can't fight or it's a 6-figure fine. How about having a $100,000 battle royal in Moline, Vern? People will love it. So, and I'm not going to tell you the promo back and forth. And MJF, he, again, great delivery and he's very well spoken, but at this point it's the same thing. And he's having to, he's the devil and he's goading Page and it's just, there's no material here. There's no energy. There's no interest. MJF has the talent. They've devalued him. He's alone in these promos because he got nobody to work with. He's got nobody to produce these whole things or help with any of this booking. And he told Page off forever. And then Page responded with one of his even more boring soliloquies where he's got the phony inflections and the over pronunciations.
Let me tell you something. There's a fucking AEW fan base right now that say that he's like the best promo in wrestling, and I don't see it at all.
Christ.
He's so fake, you don't believe him. And then his arguments are all ridiculous.
Well, there's a lot of ridiculous people out there. Maybe they like the ridiculous arguments. But it's just, again, the stuff doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. It's not. Page did the whole deal of goading MJF into executing his contract instead of just giving him a match. And finally, the way he goads him into it is he says, you need to do that to prove to yourself that you're more than a gutless coward.
Yeah, what the fuck?
And because of MJF's insecurity, he flips out. The devil gets pissed off. He screams something that got bleeped as he accepted it, so we didn't hear him accept it. And then he realizes that he's fucked up and he has the look on his face like, oh my God, what have I done? This is the dumbest devil in the history of the Bible. The devil never outsmarts anybody. The devil always gets played here. The devil always gets goaded into doing the shit that he doesn't want to do. How is MJF the devil?
Unless he wins the belt. Unless they somehow give him the belt here, which I don't think they're going to do.
But see, no, because that would salvage something out of this, but it's not the way to build the match to have the devil outsmarted and then him win. It's to see you don't want to pay to see the fucking devil win something. You want to pay to see the good guy overcome the devil, which is what we were supposed to be seeing with Page and goddamn Moxley.
He challenged the devil to overcome his feelings.
But because the devil is insecure. That's the thing, is that MJF, going back a long time, should be the one to smooth talk and outsmart and convince people until they find out otherwise, that he was the devil in disguise. Instead of coming out and saying, I'm the devil, and running everybody down to their lowest point and then having them make him flip out and get mad. I don't understand the logic. But nevertheless, so the devil got outsmarted again, and he said he was going to sign the contract for the match. And this was 15 minutes that seemed like 30. Brian, to be quite honest with you, I don't know. You tell me.
I find Adam Page unbearable on the mic. And again, there's a big groundswell of support behind his promos. People who think his promos are good, and there's no one who has the emotion that he has. In front of a small room, yeah, he does a good job of getting people to quiet down and listen and yell when he starts yelling. But if you listen to his messaging, it's not a mainstream babyface message. It's a fucking weak placeholder message. It just everything with Adam Page from day one has been booked so.
I just call it rotten material.
So stupid, but now that he's the champion, I think it's unbearable.
Well, and here's another thing. I always used to tell the guys in OVW, they'd do an interview. I'd say, use some contractions. Is what? When you speak like this and enunciate every word correctly because you are a coward, then you're giving a fucking pre-recorded speech. When you get into somebody's ass and you're fucking reading them out verbally, you're going to say can't instead of cannot, or don't instead of do not, or you're going to use some contractions, and your verbiage, your English is not going to be perfect because your emotion is carrying you away. But he's rehearsed this in his head, and he thinks he's John Ford.
So how does it help
one, movie buffs?
How does it help MJF if he loses the match?
I don't know. I don't know how they would know either, but I don't think they're worried about helping MJF anymore. They haven't given him any help so far.
Yeah, like it can't be like the Hurt Syndicate come out and cost him the match. They're the baby faces. The baby faces can't come out and do that. And if it's that it was all a swerve and that him and the Hurt Syndicate didn't break up, I think fans are getting a little sick of swerves again. So who knows?
I don't think this is a swerve, because again, they would have done it better if they'd planned to do it all along, the separation of MJF and the Hurts after they just got him in it. If that had been the plan, they would have done it better. And everybody's pretty much acquiesced that it was supposed to go longer, but it got cut short. And people are saying, well, it's because of a problem with one person in the group. But point being, unless MJF beats him, it's going to be kind of the shits all the way around. And if he does beat him, I don't see how this promoted the goddamn thing. And truthfully, they did miss the opportunity to, if they wanted to put the belt on MJF, the best way they could have put the belt on the Devil is if the Devil had goaded Page into giving him a title shot and he still had his contract, and Page gives him the shot and fucking beats him, and then fucking MJF knocks him over the head with a ball-peen hammer and cashes in his contract and wins it. Then you might have had something. Anyway, next match was Dick the Boozer versus Kevin Knight. It lasted 15 minutes, and I know you're shocked, but Moxley won. Now we can start talking about what happened after that. Brian, did you see this fucking mess?
Which mess specifically are you speaking of?
Well, here is what happened, folks, if you can keep track of it from the notes that I took. Of course, Moxley wins, but again, it takes him 15 minutes to do it because they think by giving these green guys long matches and then choking them out, it gets them over. And then Wheeler came in and got in a sloppy, fake kind of heat situation on Kevin Knight and Hong Kong Phooey. They stopped him. And then Darby Allin's music plays. And boy, here he comes carrying a skateboard and a body bag. And he zombie walked to the ring. And he did the thing. And wasn't this where he jumped up with the skateboard and skated off of Wheely's back? And then he put him in the bag. He put Wheeler in the bag while Kevin Knight and Hong Kong Phooey had a fight with Moxley out on the floor, but we never saw that because he was taking so long to put this other goof in the bag. But then Claudio came in and beat up Darby. And then Claudio took forever to unzip the bag and get Wheeler Useless out of the bag. And then they put Darby into the bag and then zipped him up. And then put the bag up on Claudio's shoulders and gave the bag an airplane spin. And dropped him. And then unzipped the bag. And put a chair around his neck. And we're going to stomp it while he's laying. Part of him's laying in the bag, and they got the chair around his neck, and Claudio's going to stomp the chair. How many goddamn angles are they going to do? And nothing else is going on, right? Well, all this bagging, unbagging. It looked like Walmart at rush hour. And then Osprey is there to pull Claudio out and save him from the stomp. I'm like, Jesus Christ, I can't remember who was even in this thing originally. And then Osprey beat up Claudio and then beat up Wheeler. And then Moxley stared at everybody. And the heels wandered off while Osprey got on the microphone and made a challenge for a tag team match, playa, in London. Player? How do you do player with an English accent? The player.
Playa.
The player. Gov, bruv.
Go, bruv.
And it's going to be in a cage. So they just did this angle to set up a goddamn cage match between these two teams of top alleged individuals. It's going to happen in, what is it now? 9-10 days away from the thing. This was one of the biggest messes I've ever seen.
What do you think would appeal more to fans? All of these men in a cage, or loser eats worms? Because I think there's a way to avoid all these injuries. I mean, if we're just going to do stupid stuff, like take airplane spins and fucking body bags. I mean, if he didn't weigh 120 pounds, anyone else, they'd be dead. Just these bumps that he takes without looking, without seeing where he's going.
But again, if you can do an angle with a body bag, put one motherfucker in the bag and zip him up. They put the one guy in the bag and zipped him up. They took him out. They put the other guy in the bag and zipped him up. They took him out. They put him up in the thing. They took him out. They zipped him back in the bag.
We'll see what happens with the Death Riders. And of course, later on, there'll be more on this show about them putting their team together for this big London extravaganza.
Did you see the girls' 6-man tag team match?
I believe that would be 6-woman, not 6-man tag, and I saw parts of it.
Well, I saw the first part, which was the very first move of the match. Alex Windsor is on one team and Blue Sky's on the other team. And they tried to start doing this duck, run, reverse, go behind, duck again spot that was way over their heads. And again, that's why some producer has to tell these people to their face, look, you ain't that good yet. Just do some simple shit. But Alex Windsor ended up powerbombing Blue Sky right on her ass. I've never seen that before. A powerbomb to the ass. She didn't sell it.
I've never seen it before, but I'm willing to see it again.
Well, at least she had a lot of padding down there. But the thing ended, I don't know who won, don't care, but there was 8 girls having a sloppy fake fight in the ring. And Tony Storm and Athena were having a fight in a balcony, and Mercedes was involved for some kind of reason. And after they cleared everything out, Storm and Windsor were in the ring, and they actually danced the tango. It was like a fucking acid flashback here. These people are on goddamn psychotropic medication.
Beam dream powder. But they don't go to sleep.
No, ladies and gentlemen. Beam dream powder will not make it you mentally where you think that AEW television is real life. No.
And apparently the reason they don't have a women's tag team title right now is because when they just had a bunch of women wrestle a match at the pay-per-view, like half the women in the match got hurt. So they keep getting hurt. This women's division is a disaster.
Well, speaking of disasters, this is what really, this next thing is pretty much what turned my stomach. Edge versus Stokely Carmichael.
Hathaway.
And they,
Hathaway.
Stokely Hathaway, I'm sorry. And the whole thing has been a mess because Christian, the heel partners and friends of Christian turned on him, but yet he came out, was the biggest prick ever last week and insulted Edge that he's supposed to try to get back together with. But originally FTR was turned on by, Edge was turned on by FTR, and Stokely's their manager, but they've gotten a restraining order or something. What the fuck, where they can't be around Edge or he can't be around them, but Edge hornswoggled him into a match against Stokely's wishes. And here we are today with Edge versus Stokely. Did I do about as good a job explaining all that as they did?
I would say so.
All right. Well, and I said this the other day, but I'll repeat it shortly, briefly, just in case anybody missed it. The way this works is if you've established, and one thing that I know about is forcing a manager to get in the ring with the top babyface, right? I think everybody can give me some credit for experience with that. You have a manager that you've put in a main event position with credible talent that has some track record of success and has been given a lot of promos and or a lot of opportunity to interfere on his men's behalf and to be a thorn in the side of the baby faces and to cost them something that was dear to them. Title, money, glory, whatever, right? Have I given them the picture, Brian?
I think so.
All right. Then once you've established that guy, then as he's done something to a baby face or a group of baby faces and they want to get even, then you force him into signing a contract that he doesn't realize or in some way being, again, snow jobbed into the ring in a handicap match with his boys and the baby faces or just one-on-one or whatever. There's a million ways to do that. And then generally that would be on a big house show or a pay-per-view or something where that is what you have built that the people need to pay to see, is the babyface getting his hands on the manager to get even with some stipulations that would seem to prevent the manager's heels from helping him out. That's the way it works. And now, again, if you're talking about, I said pay-per-view or big show where they got to pay. Well, now TV, you're getting rights fees. I can understand that, but you still have to do the other shit to make it make any difference, to make it mean something, to make it not just be comedy and an embarrassment for Edge, who used to be a star, and to be a waste of him, to be slow and unexciting and boring and goofy. And we'll get to the ratings here in a minute. I don't honestly know what they are at this point in time, but as I've said, I've done a lot of the manager wrestler matches, and all of them were either the Great American Bash or a pay-per-view or a big live event where they had to pay. But I did one, Brian, one on television in WCW, the match between me and Shane Douglas that Shane ended up bitching about. We might tell that whole story again some other time.
Was that early 1990?
Yeah, the late 89, as a matter of fact, December. But the point is that that's what we had done. I had been their advisor as well as the Midnight Express man, and nobody gave. And remember, people now, oh, Shane Douglas, he's been a big name forever. No, this 1989. He'd been a kind of a small to medium name for about 12 months. And Johnny Ace, John Laurinaitis, everybody knows now, but back then he was the guy that waved the sheep herders flag. So when they put them together as a babyface team to try to be in that Rock and Roll Express vein, to work against the Midnight Express, and it was, the program was because, as I've mentioned, Herd didn't like the Midnight and hated the dudes worse, and so he didn't care what we did as long as it was with each other. But to work with the Midnight Express was elevating them, because the Midnight Express had been multiple World Tag Team Champions, multiple U.S. Tag Team Champions, featured in main events for the previous 4+ years. Whereas they had no track record of anything.
You guys were over. Even despite the booking of 89, you guys were super over.
And also because of my track record. I had managed the top guys, or managed against the top guys. When I became their advisor, it brought them up into that stratosphere in the fans' eyes. Then when I turned on them, even though the people cheered it because they hated the dynamic dudes, because they were lousy baby faces with a shitty gimmick, we were trying. It was the hand we were dealt. But then it angered the baby faces to want to get even with me for stabbing them in the back. That was a reasoning. And then finally, a month later or whatever, when they did it, when we signed the contract on television, but it wasn't for the match I thought it was for Shane Douglas, because this was my angle, by the way. And there was absolutely no way that I was going to work with John Laurinaitis in any capacity. With 2 left feet and him being a klutz, Shane could do the moves and was a fine young athlete. He just wasn't smart to the business then. So we signed the contract on television for the next week, and I shit myself, and I'm scared, because if I'm scared, and then the fans want to see it. That's how we built the thing. And hold on, let me bend over and grab my notes. I just so happen to have in the Midnight Express scrapbook, we shot both those TVs in Greensboro at the Coliseum. And when the December 30th, 1989 edition of WCW Saturday Night. So the 2 matches that were advertised were me and Shane Douglas, and Sting versus the Dragon Master.
Kendo
exactly,
Nagasaki.
Sting and Luger. Yes, but not exactly Sting and Luger at the time. We did a 3.4 rating and a 6.5 share. We were in 1,759,000 homes, which by the measuring of that time period was a little over, I think, 3 million people. It was the second highest Saturday night rating in over a year. And the previous high rating was the Midnight Express and Dynamic Dudes rematch off of the Clash of Champions on December 2nd, like 4 weeks before that. Because it meant something, and people wanted to see me get my ass kicked and see what was going to fucking happen. And, otherwise, this was just a fucking clown show. I'll tell a story later on. That was also the start of the heat between Shane Douglas and Ric Flair, that Shane waged that one-sided 20-year program about after that, because he couldn't get over it.
Do you think these fans are invested in seeing Stokely get beat up?
No, that's the point. He's not been established as a top guy manager. I didn't even mean that was a pun with FTR. As a manager of top talent, because they haven't been on top since he's been with them. And he ain't been with them that long. And he ain't been with anybody else that ever gave a shit or mattered a shit. And he's never accomplished anything by basically coming out and screwing a fucking main event babyface out of a championship or a pay-per-view main event. And he's never been allowed to go out and cut promos, meaningful promos. He can talk. See, that's the thing, the talent now in the locker room and the creative teams. They think because the guy can talk and he's glib, that means he can talk. He can talk entertainingly, but he ain't got anything to talk about. besides a little stuff to get himself over, but he's not got goals that he's achieved or mountains that he's climbed or a track record that he can rely on or the material for a good angle that you can sink your teeth into where he can talk about the evil things that he's done and the more things that his boys are going to do. He's just out there doing funny lines. And that's what the boys now think means you can talk. He's really entertaining. Yeah, he's entertaining. What's he fucking talking about? I want to pay to see or want to go out of my way to see. So they start the match with security throwing him into the ring where he never tries to run. He never tries to run. He turned around and speared Edge and bounced off. And since the setup was so off and there's no heat in this, the fans are just laughing because it's comedy. But it's also obviously phony comedy. It's not even like the manager getting his comeuppance where the people can laugh at him. They're just laughing at what he's doing because it's obvious that it's bullshit. And I'm sorry, but I always took pride in having the fans laugh at me being embarrassed or humiliated or getting a taste of my own medicine or whatever it may be, rather than the shit that I was doing was funny because it was all phony and made up and we were just jacking off. Can you see, Brian, that there might be a little bit of a difference?
Yeah.
So then, my notes, there was no action. There was no excitement. It all looked fake. There was no energy. There was no heat. The fans, and he speared him again and bounced off. And then the fans are like, one more time, one more time. Edge got the microphone and went out in the crowd and let a fan cut a promo on Stokely. And then he asked another one of the girls if they would fuck him. He didn't say fuck. But he said, hey, any hoes out here? Yeah. So he asked one hoe, the self-admitted hoe. Her name was Flo. She was part of the show. So, Ho Flo Show. Would you basically said you're gonna get with Stokely? Oh no. Oh no. Ho the Flow, part of the show, but it was no go. And then he just went out and grabbed Stokely and threw him back in the ring and speared him. And this took forever. And then FTR came out, but they got a restraining order or whatever. So they're asking Edge, don't hurt Stokely. So Edge speared him again.
The dreaded heels begging the babyface not to hurt their manager.
Oh, yeah, please don't hurt. Please, Hammer, don't hurt him. And then Edge asked the fans if he could pin or should pin Stokely. And they're like, no, beat him up again. And then FTR runs in. And I don't know if anybody went to jail over this, but Edge beat them up. And then went to went to spear Stokely again. And now he throws the powder. After Edge, a Hall of Fame level superstar, has speared him twice, now he throws the powder. You know why Shane Douglas was pissed about that match we had and made us redo it and got that heat with Flair? Because he didn't want to sell the powder. You remember that story?
I do remember that story.
He even told me after the previous week's television, we had led up to this, and I told him what we were going to be doing, and we were going to sign a contract, get me in the ring with him. In the airport, he had said, now, I don't sell that powder in the eyes, because he'd been to Memphis for like 3 weeks and thought he knew what was going on. And I thought he was kidding, and he had a straight face. And I said, I told him, I said, I think you're going to sell it when I throw it at you. I mean, I let him know we're going to throw the powder. And the deal was that I'm forced into the goddamn match. I'm scared to death. I'm at my wit's end. And so when the match starts, I throw powder in his eyes and blind him while the Midnight Express is distracted Johnny Ace, his partner, and the referee. And then for like 2 minutes, I've got a rope in my, and I choke him with the rope, and I've got the gimmick and I stick in his eyes, and I cheat and I let the Midnight interfere and choke him while I'm drawing the referee, and anything I can to avoid this guy from killing me. And then after a couple minutes, I fuck up and he makes a comeback. And boom, and I take the big bump and he gets on me and he's choking me. He's going to choke the life out of me, but my shoulders are down and I get counted out. And then the Midnight hits and Johnny hits and they drag me out before he gets a chance to finish the job. He didn't even pin me on purpose. So now, 20 times in the month of January, all around the country in major arenas, the Midnight Express will face the Dynamic Dudes. And if the Dudes beat the Midnight, then Shane Douglas gets the 5 minutes with me to get even again. It's a goddamn infomercial. But after we shot it, and by the way, the people in the arena were fine with the happenings. Flair's the booker. It's my angle. The only reason that the Dynamic Dudes at that point are even booked in anything besides to get beat because Herd hates them is because I said, okay, I'll take the other team that he hates and I'll work a program with the Midnight Express with him because at least we can get a match out of them. And it's something for everybody to do. And Flair has approved all these things. Well, now Shane, because like I said, he could do the moves then. He was an athletic young man, but he wasn't smart to the business. And he took himself even then way too seriously. He called Hurt. He didn't call Flair the booker and say, Rick, you know, I sold too much for a manager. That was his bone of contention. 2.5 minutes with two guys helping him blind or two guys helping me and blind and foreign objects. He sold too much. Made him look weak. So he didn't call the booker Ric Flair and ask, hey, can we do something? He called Jim Herd over Flair's head. And of course, Herd couldn't stand me, couldn't stand Midnight, and didn't like Shane and Johnny. But if it's some way to overrule Flair, sure, do it again, reshoot it. So we got the word that now we're going to have to reshoot this deal because Shane called Jim Herd. So Flair immediately said, who the fuck is this guy? Fuck this fucking guy. We inherited this goddamn, the most unpopular babyface tag team in history from the booking committee after George Scott because JR said, well, we ain't doing anything with these two guys and they're blonde and they can smile. And he saw somebody skateboarding on TV and said, hey, the Dudes skateboard. Johnny couldn't even fucking ride the skateboard. He had to carry it. So Flair said, fuck these guys. Okay. So what we did was at the next TV before the thing aired, we retaped it where I came out with a doctor's note, my arm in a sling. Stan Lane had a single match with Shane and we did some kind of fucking finish. And then the matches that were booked for them in all the arenas for them to beat the Midnight Express and get 5 minutes with me. Flair just fucking beat him. He said, fuck it, just beat him. They don't get it. They don't get the stipulation. And then after a few weeks, we had about 4 or 5 left and it was a big town. And he said, well, this has been so fucking flat. We'll put them over. And then they jerked me in and to cover me, boom, 1, 2, 3. Because I wasn't going to, after that, because it was a personal insult, not only to me, but to Flair. I wasn't going to fucking put any energy in taking bumps for him or trying to get him over. So we did that 3 or 4 times. And then the Rock and Roll Express were back and we didn't work with the Dudes anymore. And they went on to put I guess every other team on the roster over. But that's what started the heat between Shane and Flair because then Flair said, well, fuck these guys. Who the fuck do they even think they are? This is a favor spot. And he called over my head. So he just beat him the rest of the fucking time.
Well,
but nevertheless, back to this thing. Yes. So Stokely throws the powder in fucking Edge's eyes after he's already been speared twice. And then I wrote, idiots. And then FTR get the heat on Edge, but they hold him for Stokely to throw a punch at him. But Stokely throws the punch at him and is still selling and falls down. Not the time, Stoke. That's not the time for the comedy. That's where the manager pulls himself up in the corner and starts selling his guts or his leg or his head or his mouth or whatever and pointing at his guys. Kill him, he hurt me. That's where your heat comes in. Not by going over and being comedic again. Jesus Christ, does anybody teach anything these days? For fuck's sake. And FTR got slow, uninspired heat and then went for the stuffed pile driver. And Christian Cage's music plays. Oh my God. Here comes Christian Cage out with a spiked bat. I know they do the spiked bat, but again, this is not the time for comedy.
It's Edge's spiked bat, specifically.
But I know they do it, but it's not the time for comedy. It's just ridiculous and preposterous to look at. And he didn't use it. And they ain't going to use it. But that's the thing. This is the Edge and Christian reunion after Edge had a 5-minute comedy segment with a manager that is not over and is then being half-ass beaten up by not the fucking people that, oh, Jesus Christ. And then he comes out with a spiked bat. But Nick Plain comes out and swings a chair at Christian, so Christian hits the chair with the bat, and Nick bails, but Pip Sabian shows up, but Edge spears him, and then the heels all leave, and Edge and Christian do the bump back spot and turn around like, oh my God! And 500 people in the fucking Brady Music Center are chanting, hug it out. So they did. These guys were two of the biggest stars in the business at one time. And they haven't been together in 11 years or whatever they said it was, however many years. And this is the way they put them back together. Or this is the way they allowed themselves to put themselves back together. And
this is not having a booker.
Is the team FTR or is the team Pip and Nick? It better not be Pip and Nick, because Edge and Christian against Pip and Nick would be like fucking Dumbo and goddamn Godzilla against two mosquitoes.
I believe that is the match coming up. Them against Pip and Nick Wayne.
But I mean, the match, is that to set up Edge and Christian for FTR? One would hope so.
It has to be. It has to be. If not, I mean, it has to be.
But after all of this, why do we want to see Edge and Christian against FTR?
No, we don't want to see any of it. I mean, that's the biggest problem with the booking, is that they do these things, they're poorly thought out. Again, the Hardys are in TNA, they're about to do something with the Dudleys who are reuniting. Somehow Edge and Christian reuniting on national TV proper means less than all of that. This has been the whole Edge and Christian feud. When he got to AEW, that was done poorly. Why'd you think they would do this right? And FTR, it was noticeable how quiet the fans were when FTR got involved. They don't care about FTR anymore.
When's the last time FTR did anything that we give a shit about seeing?
The match with Juice Robinson and Jay White.
That was 2 years ago. I've still got it on my DVR. That was in July 2 years ago.
So yeah, I'm not excited to see Edge and Christian reunite or anything else that's going to happen here. Yeah. This whole segment was ridiculous.
By the way, folks, there's a trivia note for you. The one modern wrestling program that I have saved on my DVR out of all the WWE pay-per-views, all of the major events, everything we've recorded, is an AEW show. FTR versus Gin and Juice. Old Juice Robinson and old Jay White, whatever happened to him. And that's because it was so far and away the not only the greatest, but the only great, what I would call great tag team match that I've seen in the past 10 or 15 years, and it was on an AEW show. And they never did it again.
Yeah, they never followed up with any of it.
So anyway, after that, on this program, I saw what the next match was, and I'll tell you what it was. It was Kyle Felcher, Josh Alexander, and the Hardley Boys against Brody King, a guy in a mask, Takahashi, and Ishii. And I said, that I can't do this anymore. I was nauseous. There was about 40 minutes left into the show at that point, and I couldn't. I quit. I don't know if I missed anything. I don't know what happened. I don't care. I couldn't do anymore.
You know
what happened?
Sometimes I give you a lot of guilt, and well, you know that you should have watched that girls' match. You should have watched Io Sky. I'm not going to give you any guilt here. This is a bad show, and I wouldn't have kept watching if I didn't have to. I thought you were going to keep watching. We'll go over what happened with the ratings in a minute.
Well, in that case, then, folks, I think the moral of the story of today's program, I don't know who it is, but somebody needs to find a new line of work. And I think there's no better way to do that, Brian, than to follow your dreams. Because, you know, if you enjoy what you do for a living, you'll never work a day in your life. That's what they used to say, right? Well, I'll tell you what, if you don't care whether you enjoy what you're doing for a living or not, but you want to make some money at it, then fucking just go ahead and do some miserable shit for a short period of time, make a fortune, and then relax and jack off. How's that sound?
Again, I don't know if this is the advice that we should be giving the audience, but good advice is that if you do start a business, if you leave AEW to start a business, or if you have a business and you don't work for AEW,
or you leave anybody else and need to start a business,
you need the right support, the right team behind you, and you can get that from our friends at Shopify.
That's right, because there's no me and team, folks. And the folks at Shopify are going to get behind you. They're going to push you. They're going to put your nose to the grindstone. They're going to be cracking that whip. You come up with a product, a dream, a service that you'd like to sell, and they're going to put you to work, and they're going to push you, and they're going to ride you, and they're going to whomp you and stomp you until you make millions of dollars.
It doesn't work like that. There are no guarantees, but it does not work like that.
Well, if you break down, you know, and just fall into the dust and wither away before they've finished driving you and whomping you and stomping you, you ain't going to make millions of dollars. You've got to be resilient, folks.
You're going to fall into the dust?
You're going to fall into the dust? They're going to get behind you. That's right. Just right into it. Just drop right into it. They're going to get behind you, and they're going to push you with their great team. They have hundreds of ready-to-use templates that help you build your online store. They're your own design studio. You can accelerate your content creation. The helpful AI tools that write product descriptions and page headlines. I'm smiling. They can enhance your product photography. You know, they've got a camera. If you've got a picture of a person with their clothes on, they can take a picture of that. It looks like they're naked. It's enhanced. Get the word out like you've got a marketing team behind you, because you will. Constantly pushing you, work harder, longer hours. They want you to make money because they're going to get part of it. Easily create email and social media campaigns to beg people all across the world to give you money.
That's not, no,
and you will in turn,
not begging people to give you money.
Well, you're asking nicely.
Your business will be displayed all over the world via the World Wide Web and, of course, smartphones and all other sorts of technology. Yes. And it's easy. They power our online store, ArcadianVanguard.com. You can find it in the shop app. There's a purple button. Hey, what's better than that? Shopify.
What's better than purple? And these social media campaigns, they will, I'm telling you right now, they're going to make people want to buy your stuff, because that's right. And watch out now, that kid on that bicycle.
Oh, there he goes.
They're going to make people buy your stuff, and you're going to work hard to create it, and then they're going to buy more of it. It's going to be an endless loop. You're going to be just a hamster in the wheel. You're making the stuff, and they're selling it for you. You're making it, and they're selling it. You're going to have a lot of money, no time to spend it. You're going to be a workaholic with a broken family, but you're going to be successful at it.
You will be doing what you do today, but with more support and more help for you and, of course, your products. Shopify, that's the Shopify way. This is the Shopify sound. There it is.
Yes.
As I talked over it. And there's more that they could do. There's a great price to try it out. Check it out today.
Yes.
We trust them. You could trust them. Jim, I trust you will give that information. Shopify.
Well, and in Shopify, we trust. At Shopify.com, you can turn your big business idea into cha-ching. Cha-ching. There it is. Reality. With Shopify on your on your side. Shopify will be on your side, ladies and gentlemen, and in the shower with you as well. Sign up now for your $1 a month trial period and start selling today at shopify.com/JCE. That's shopify.com/JCE to start selling today and working today and living to work another day. And work till you drop in the big city. Don't stop till you get enough. Shopify.com/JCE. Ow!
All right.
So,
So,
I guess before we go, the question is, did anybody watch this program this week on AEW? Our normal monitoring of the ratings. They were way up last week. They were over 700,000 for the first time in a month or so.
well,
What happened?
AEW Dynamite for Wednesday, August 13th, 2025, 8 to 10:06 p.m. on TBS. On average, watched by 690,000 viewers.
Well, that's not bad. They're back down below 700, but they're way above the low sixes that they were in for a while there. They were stuck in the middle with you.
3% down from last week, which was 711, and 10% up on the trailing 4-week average of 630,000 viewers. We have the quarterly numbers.
And I mean, is there any way, before you get to the quarters, is there any way, and in this, barring any kind of major competition from a huge sporting event or a big WWE event or something, is there any way at this point they're going to do more than 750 again or any less than 550? It's always, or even they've got down in the fives on Dynamite, not as an overall number, but they trail off into it. But they haven't done 750 in I don't know how long, and they never go below 550. So that's where their range is.
No, this I think is the peak. This is as good as it gets. Right now, there's no NBA. Right now is the time where you could really take advantage of the sports schedule and hopefully pull in some numbers. But let's go to these quarterly hours. These were compiled by WrestleNomics. And of course, it does not include Max. Or HBO Max, I guess it is again. Quarter 1, 8 to 8:15 p.m., the MJF Adam Page live promo, and the Jon Moxley promo, 864,000 viewers.
Oh, good Lord. All right. That's the biggest lead in that they have had, the biggest first quarter, I should say, that they've had in months and months and months. And that also shows that they're going to go back to their old pattern of starting big and precipitous drops, all the way to the end. So they've avoided that for the last few months now, where they've started lower, but they've maintained more of their audience, and a couple of times even fluctuated. I think, what was it, a week or two ago, one of their quarters was bigger than their first one, which never happens. But now was there something odd on the lead in, or is it just the lack of any other sports competition and people are watching the Big Bang again? What was with that lead in?
I couldn't tell you. Typically MJF segments have, even with the declining viewership with AEW Dynamite, they've done better in the key demo, better.
Yeah, but
typically, but this is so much higher than that. I don't even know if that would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is for when they didn't know what place he was going to be in the show, and suddenly he's there, and there's an extra 150,000 people sitting there waiting on it. Again, we'll see what percentage of the audience they lose, but they had more in times previous. They had more casual people that you could tell were checking out the show until they got bored or disinterested or saw who they could see, and then it just steadily lost. They've reversed that over recent weeks. Let's see what this does.
We go to quarter two, 8:15 to 8:30 p.m. Jon Moxley versus Kevin Knight with picture-in-picture, 774,000 viewers.
Oh, good Lord. Okay, there went 90,000 right off the bat, and they got a lot of room to go to hit this average, so they're continuing in that direction.
The direction continues in quarter three, 8:30 to 8:45 p.m. The Death Riders, Jet Speed, Darby Allin, and Will Ospreay live angle, and the Adam Copeland FTR video, followed by an ad break, 769,000 viewers.
That's not actually bad. That's 5,000. That's kind of normal fluctuation. I'm interested to see what my counterpart of modern times, Stokely, the manager match, has to do here.
Well, first we have to go to quarter four, 8:45 to 9 p.m. Mercedes Moné, as well as Tekla and Sky Blue versus Alex Windsor, Queen Aminata, and Willow Nightingale with picture-in-picture ads, and the post-match with Toni Storm and Athena, and the Will Ospreay backstage promo, 718,000 viewers.
Ooh, see that? There goes another 51,000. Now they're down 146,000 since the start, and it doesn't look well for Edge and Stokely because they have a rotten lead in, even though they're at the top of the hour.
We go to the big 9 o'clock hour, quarter five, 9 to 9:15 p.m. Adam Copeland versus Stokely, and the post-match with FTR, Christian Cage, and the Matriarchy, followed by a hook video and an ad break, 699,000 viewers.
All right, so they lost another 19,000. They're under 700,000 at the top of the hour because of that crummy segment that led them there.
Well, the crumminess continues, Jim. We go now to quarter six, 9:15 and 9:30 p.m. Brody King and the Conglomeration and Hiromu Takahashi versus the Don Callis family and the Young Bucks with picture-in-picture twice.
Oh, boy.
610,000 viewers.
Good Lord. So not only was that a match nobody wanted to see, and it had the buckaroo effect of running everybody off, but they went through two breaks because they couldn't just get the fuck out of there. So now they lost 89,000 people in 15 minutes with, again, Don Callis is the top manager. He's supposed to have the top stable of heels. These guys were the EVPs, the big tag team of the year. They lose viewers every time they show up. Now they're 254,000 people down from the start of the show. Here we go.
Yeah, and by the way, they lose viewers. They lose viewers in the key demo. For everyone who always said that was the key objective, the overall number doesn't matter. It's all about the key demo. That's the only thing advertisers care about, the only thing the station cares about. Those are where they lose people. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, and I don't know if anyone has the time or the patience, but I would love to know. Next to the Young Bucks and Jon Moxley, does anyone on AEW Dynamite have a record like they do of dropping the numbers below 500 or below 600 and the key demo under 200? But let's go back to this. Quarter seven, 9:30 to 9:45 p.m. The continuation of Brody and the Conglomeration and Takahashi versus Don Callis' family and the Bucks. An ad break. And the Swerve Strickland Kazuchika Okada ramp angle. 560,000 viewers.
Oh, good Lord.
Under 200 in the key demo, 194.
So from the quarter before the Buckaroos showed up to the quarter when they were done, they lost 139,000 people, and that's in a space of 30 minutes.
Well, Jim,
yeah.
Let's go to quarter 8. I remind you, we have a 6-minute overrun. Quarter 8, 9:45 to 10 p.m. The Death Riders Young Bucks backstage angle, an ad break, and La Facción Ignoberales versus the
Lord.
Ops with picture-in-picture.
These are the things I missed, huh?
This was the main event. 570,000 viewers, 190 in the key demo. 6-minute overrun. More of that match, and Adam Page gets jumped in the parking lot by MJF. 573.
So they actually gained 10,000 viewers for LaFuckers and Goobers main event after the Buckaroos had got off the screen. So they start at 864 and end at 573, and they dip to 560 along the way. They were officially at one point down 304,000 viewers from the start, which again is well over 30%. They remember when we would calculate it every week, they lose 35% of their audience. If they start with a big number, obviously some of those people are not regular viewers, and they just happen to be there, and they give them a chance, and sometimes they make it 45 minutes or whatever, and then they just start leaving in droves. But, whether 3-hour Raws or 3-hour SmackDowns or Saturday night's main event or whatever, the one thing you can say about the WWE and every other wrestling program I have ever heard of or been involved with, you don't lose a third or more of your audience that you start with by the end of the show. And as we've mentioned 18 million times, that used to be the highest rated part because that was your main event.
Well,
and it still is for the WWE and some other situations, but not these fellows, because the show is all the same. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And finally you get frustrated.
Well, that's the Dynamite way.
Speaking of being frustrated.
That's right.
Is that, are we out of time as well as frustrated and confused?
We're all out of time. I have no more time to spare.
There is no more time. In that case, ladies and gentlemen, until next week or the next show or both of the above, thank you, fuck you, and bye-bye, everybody.